Hello, it's me. I'm just kind of sitting here editing the episode right now. I'm about 16 minutes in, and I noticed that there is a whole lot of audio that is just completely inaudible in this episode. I'm still going to take the time to edit the whole thing, or at least listen through the whole thing and make sure that there's nothing that should get cut out that doesn't. But just know, this one is one that you only want to watch if you just really care. You just really, really want to watch the Triple Baka podcast, which I don't know why you would be that kind of person, but if you are, good on you. I personally thought the conversations we had later, once we get to the main topic, were pretty good. Just know that you're not really going to be able to hear, some of it. Giving you fair warning.
Welcome. Sank.
To the I almost said the procrastinator.
No free shout-outs.
Welcome to the Triple Baka podcast, episode 15.
This one is already a shit show.
I mean, honestly, it would be better in the other room.
Whatever. We're already here. This place has a thing for me to plug my laptop in at. We're good.
We decided to record this one in person again. But for some reason, the dogs at this house will not leave us alone.
So they're all here.
They're all here. We already have put off recording this for about a week.
Yeah.
Because we decided that it should be here. And then, you know what, we don't gotta explain everything. But needless to say, there's been some technical difficulties.
We are in a room with the worst acoustics I have ever heard in my entire life.
Because there's an outlet in this room.
Yep. And also there's a really easy way for us to set up the microphone.
Yeah. Anyway, you've watched things. What were they?
Yes. I finished Zabungle. I finished Zabungle. It's over. It's done. And it's really kind of a weird one in terms of Tomino.
Yeah.
Tomino's whole thing is typically that, oh, fuck it, kill them all. But, Tomino didn't want to kill anybody over the course of this show's run.
Did anyone die?
There's a few deaths, here or there, but it's definitely nowhere near as high of a body count as it could have had.
It's basically nothing.
But, for the most part, Zabungle is, a weird mix of mecha and, westerns, in general from over here. So, it takes place in the middle of a desert for, the entire run, and, all of the mechas are, super fucking, what's the word?
Stop. You gotta let a dog in.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry about the dog.
I still think we could just lock them in here.
No.
I don't want to do
They will
that.
start barking.
And then they progressively get quieter.
That one still has
No.
fur problems, but I don't want to make worse too.
Shut up. We're done. We're back. Ooh.
We'll never be.
She's leaving. She's just leaving on her own accord.
Yeah, no, they do that, but they'll whine about it if we make them leave.
Keep going.
They'll literally cry about it.
Yeah. Cry about it, liberal. Anyways, okay, back to Zabungle. Alright, so, the thing about Zabungle is that it's really lighthearted a lot of the time. There's just a lot of, very goofy action in it. It's a very funny show. I laughed a lot when I was watching it. And, it's weird because normally the Tomino thing is that he, murders the entire cast and it's supposed to be this message about, fucking, humanity or whatever, right? Yeah. And Zabungle is, an oddly positive outlook from Tomino.
Yeah.
Where most things from Tomino come off as incredibly negative because of how he deals with his casts and literally slaughtering them, including the women and the children. Just all of them, just all dead. But Zabungle kills almost none of the main cast, like, at all, ever. There's even a point where, like, one of the main characters, his name is, and I'm not kidding, Big Fat Man.
Yeah.
He gets caught in it, like, on the last episode, he gets caught in a nuclear explosion. And in the final shot of the episode, comes running out of nowhere to join the final cast call.
Oh, wait, he gets caught in an explosion and then just comes back?
Yes.
Like, so it looked like he died, and then later he's just like, hey guys.
Yeah.
Did anyone think he died?
Yes, everybody thought he died.
So, like, even the cast of the show was like, he dead.
Yes.
And then he just shows up. Like,
Yep.
nothing happened.
Yep.
Okay.
I love that character so much. His whole thing is that he's like this background, like, physical comedy prop for the initial captain of the Iron Gear named Elchi.
Yeah.
And, like, it's, like, weird because he just, like, whenever a scene is happening in the captain's room, he's doing something, like, funny in the background. He barely has any spoken lines at all, ever. Most of his lines are just him saying Elchi's name over and over again, and that's it.
Yeah.
And, like, about halfway through the show, Elchi gets, like, kidnapped, and she gets, like, torture hypnotized to, like, become part of the enemy team. And this guy starts getting, like, an entire character arc during this time period. To the point where him dying is, like, sacrificing himself to, like, save her. But he was fully caught in the blast, so I don't understand. Heaven was carrying something shiny.
They were carrying the fork from...
Nyuu is advocating for killing dogs. That better make it in.
I'll selectively leave in the funny parts whenever we say cut things out.
Yeah. It is now only me. It's the one Baka podcast. Sayu has left the building. I repeat, Sayu left. There they are.
So, I just wanted to clean up that room so that we don't have any more.
Any more incidents with Evan?
Yeah.
I barely got a glimpse of it, and I thought it was her little bone that she's been holding the whole night,
Yeah.
but it was like shiny, and it looked like a bunch of napkins and like a plastic thing, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that's kind of... The other kind of issues I'm talking about was recording this year.
And the podcast is only getting funnier.
I wish I
Hurry. Move. We only have 260 hours.
Okay.
Right.
Cut back in now.
We're back. We're golden. We're good. Okay. Zabungle. The thing about Zabungle is that the thing that I sort of thought it was about, especially towards the end, and honestly, you can give Zabungle any reading you want. I don't think Tomino was super concerned with people, like, getting a message out of Zabungle. I thought the show really came off as though he was just wanting to make something fun.
Yeah.
You know, because it's sandwiched between Ideon, one of the darkest shows Tomino has ever created, and this thing called Aura Battler Dunbine, which from what I've heard rivals Zabungle. Or not Zabungle, rivals Ideon in terms of, like, dark. So
Is
it's
it
like...
as popular? Like, is it still remembered in the Japanese pop consciousness?
I haven't seen a whole lot yet. Maybe it is. I know that people over here mention it a lot when they're talking about Zabungle, and they don't tend to mention Ideon as much.
Yeah.
So I would say it's probably between those two in terms of popularity.
Okay.
Anyways, so the thing about Zabungle is, the thing that I thought it was about was like Zabungle more or less is like what it's like to change eras.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Zabungle is that, like, it's like this split between, like, these old era humans called the Innocents and then the new era humans called the civilians.
Yeah.
And, like, the end of the show is that the civilians inherit the planet that they're on, called Zola, from the innocents. And it's like, it's kind of like a thing where it's like a new generation is taking over, but the old one is, like, super hostile about it and stuff. And
as they tend to be.
Yeah, and I am just incredibly, honestly, if I could ask Tomino any questions at all, I mean, other than why, dear God, why did you do that to me? Is the one that I would ask him is probably how he feels about Zabungle now that he's, like, almost 80, I think. Like, I'm curious how he feels about it now, because the show is definitely
how old would he have been while making the show?
1980. I think he would have been about in his 40s.
Yeah.
Tomino too has forgotten that he made Zabungle.
I don't think he gets asked about it very often, because it's not a show that's, like, super thought provoking, you know? Yeah. It's a great show, don't get me wrong. If I gave it an 8 out of any of Tomino's shows, if I'm going to recommend one, it's probably going to be Zabungle, to be totally honest. Yeah. But like, I don't get the feeling that it's a show that wants you to take it seriously ever, you know?
It's like entertainment.
Yeah, it's a very fun show. It's a very good show, but the overall message of the show feels like it's taking a back seat to Tomino sort of having fun and experimenting with his casts and doing all sorts of stuff. Because if you did not know, Tomino has only ever written one cast.
Yeah.
And that is the cast of Gundam that he has written 8 times.
Just everything that's come after.
Literally, you remember how I complained that the opening of Ideon was just Gundam?
Yeah.
Like the first 3 episodes were the same thing as Gundam?
Yeah.
That is every Tomino show.
They're
the same thing.
I've noticed that it seems to be a lot of, like, creatives in the anime industry. At least they're, like, earlier half of their works, is they make, like, one thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, they have, like, all of their, like, creative ideas, and it kind of, like, becomes this, like, formula of theirs, and that where they just pour everything they got into, like, this one thing, and then they're like, okay, time to make the next one. And they just, like, they're like, oh, that was, like, everything I've ever thought of. Let's just do it again.
Yeah. I mean, that really is how it feels. Like, Gundam is, like, the midpoint. Like, that's Tomino set to, like, a 7, right? And Ideon is Tomino where he was, like, he was changing the amplifier and he, like, set it to, like, 1,000,000.
Specifically, it reminds me of, like, the way Makoto Shinkai's, like, first half of their movies were, where, like, every single movie of theirs was a story about, like, 2 lovers that were close when they were younger, and then the sands of time have continued, and they've grown apart, and then they never got together, and they were sad about it. That was, like, every single Makoto Shinkai for the first half of their career.
Yep. That's still every single Makoto Shinkai, but now they get together.
Yeah. And there's, like weird magic shit that happens.
Yeah. Man, what a director, holy shit. Oh yes, and I did watch the movie Zabungle Graffiti. The description of Zabungle Graffiti on Mal was literally, and I am quoting here, a compilation movie of Zabungle with a brand new ending.
Yeah.
So I watched it. I skipped through it, right? First off, episode 1 was 6 minutes long. Second, I skipped an hour in, because it's only an 80-minute movie. I skipped an hour in, and they were on episode 49.
Yeah.
How does that even happen? And then I was still not seeing anything new, so I kept skipping around, and there wasn't anything new, and eventually I found it.
Yeah.
The final episode of the show is titled Everybody Run. And I thought that this would be like a reference to like a big explosion that was going to happen or something.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's in reference to the final cast call of the series where everybody runs, which I thought was really funny. But during that scene, there's this song that plays that's pretty good, all things considered. That's like it's a Tomino classic insert. You know, I don't know the name of it. I'll figure it out eventually. But during this like casting call, the movie changes that song out for a different song.
It's a new ending.
It's a brand new ending.
It's a game changer.
Theme. It's so frustrating. But before we move on, I want to tell you guys about my favorite scene in the entire show.
What's that?
So it's like they're all attacking the final innocent dome, right?
Yeah.
They're all attacking the big bad guy. They're all gonna kill him. And he's like, fire fucking everything we have in here. Take all the fucking displays off the museum. Fire them. Fire all of our missiles. Just fucking fire everything. And so they're like, all right, we have this ICBM sitting here. You want us to launch it? And he's like, yes, do it. So they launch this fucking, like, ballistic missile that is going to cause, like, a nuclear explosion when it hits. And they launch it into the atmosphere. And this whole battle's taking place while it's doing this very slow arc.
Yeah.
And it's heading back down. And it's going to land directly on the Iron Gear. And everyone's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Goodbye. I loved you all. This was fun. I'll see you never because the show's ending. and Jiron, the main character, gets aboard the Gallier, which is like his secondary ship that's like really strong. Yeah. Jiron doesn't actually pilot the Zabungle for the entire second half of the show. I just want to bring that up now. It's really funny.
So it like starts as a mecha and then it's not a mecha.
No, he pilots a different mecha.
Oh, okay.
Called the Gallier.
I thought you were just like, they just dropped the mecha.
No, the Zabungle, the Zabungle is still there. It's just other people pilot it. So it's like about to land, and Jiron's like freaking out. He's like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? He's like right under it. And then Chill, which is like a 3-year-old, is sitting in the other cockpit of the Gallier, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing, Jiron? Get out of here. And Jiron's like, no, wait, it'll hit the Iron Gear though. And then he catches it before it lands. And he's like, oh, does this have a fuse? And he starts like juggling it around and like spinning it to like try and find if there's a fuse. And literally every single person is on the intercom going, Jiron, what are you doing? Throw it, get rid of it, get rid of that fucking thing. What are you doing? And eventually he's like, oh, there's no fuse. Oh God, what if it's timed? And he starts like running away, and then he takes it. And so in this fight, there are 2 battleships that are like the main villains, Kid Horla's and Timps, who's like the main villain of the whole series, basically. Yeah. And he runs up to Kid Horla's and goes, fuck it, and just launches it. He just takes this whole ass nuclear missile and throws it. And it hits the ship and it like dinks for a second, and everyone's staring at it, and it lights up, and then it fucking explodes. Yeah. And it destroys the entire ship Kid Horla is on. He survives somehow, and he just watches the rest of the show happen, and every time there's a big scene, he goes, oh, I should have been there. Like, oh, it's so insane, and I love it. Like, Zabungle is like, it feels like anime, you know?
Yeah.
It's great. Other than that, that's all I watched this week, I think.
It's, like, the art style stands out enough. It feels like it should be a show that's more remembered from the 80s.
Yeah.
I guess it's too early in the 80s.
It is 1982. The mechas that people tend to remember from the 80s aren't for a little while, so...
Okay. What else have you watched, if anything?
I watched the first episode of Digimon Ghost Story.
Yeah.
It was cool. I liked Gamomon. They were really cute. Yeah. Editor, Gamomon. Yeah.
What's his name? Stan. Okay.
Just remember it.
Yeah.
I can remember it.
You remember every timestamp.
No, I mean, I'll probably just have to listen through this one.
Yeah, this one will be a mess for editing. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's pretty much everything. I'm still just watching a couple of other things there slowly.
I kind of want the episodes to be like editing messes again. I don't know. You know, maybe the downside of actually organizing the editing workflow is that they're all just boring.
Yeah. Maybe like maximize the editing workflow for like most episodes, and then have a few of them be like fun editing messes. Anyways, that's not the point. Anyone else watch any anime?
Yeah, what about you, Sayu? What have you been watching?
I thought you said you watched something.
I did, but I just wanted to ask. You just want to be courteous.
I thought we were going clockwise here.
No. It's actually counterclockwise. What if you watched?
It's clockwise, upside down, in reverse, in a mirror.
So I watched the first episode of Dragon Ball.
No, you didn't. You liar.
Tom correctly called this. Sayu had actually not watched the first episode of Dragon Ball, but insisted that they had, and completely fabricated this first impression for seemingly no reason.
It was really surprising, like, getting back, like, I haven't watched, like, old anime in a while. I kind of, like, just forgot how, like, really slow-paced it all was.
No, that's pretty much Dragon Ball.
Is it really just Dragon Ball?
Yeah.
I've never watched an old anime that wasn't really slow-paced, but I guess
a lot of
like,
old anime were supposed to be, like, long-form things, but, like, if you watch one that's just, like, 30 episodes or less, they're typically pretty tightly paced, even as, like, newer ones are.
And it's also worth noting that even the really long ones will have generally very fast-paced first episodes, because they're trying to set up the entire plotline of the series in 24 minutes.
No, Dragon Ball is, like, more so than, like, any other show that, like, I've seen so far, is just unbelievably low, like, slow.
Okay, alright. The other thing that surprised me a lot about, like, this anime is, I don't know if this came off, and I don't know is the 4Kids dub the one everyone watched for Dragon Ball?
Was it 4Kids? I don't know anything about it.
There is a 4Kids dub, but there were, like, 6 different dubs.
I don't know enough about Dragon Ball.
I don't know what, like, the dub is for the original Dragon Ball.
I'm pretty sure it's the same as the one for Z, whoever dubbed it.
I think it's the 4Kids dub.
Anyway, I don't know if this came off in, like, whatever American releases.
4Kids did Kai.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and that's the one that nobody likes.
Yeah.
Well, at least they don't like the dub.
Yeah. I don't know who... Was it... It aired on Toonami, didn't it?
I think so.
So that means it could have been any number of dubbing studios.
For anybody in the audience that may potentially be one of these, like, big Dragon Ball fans, I'm sure you, like, know every single dub name by heart, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I watched, like, the really shitty Japanese audio.
Oh, wait, you didn't track down the VHS?
The original Dragon Ball has a high quality one.
I thought that was Z that... I thought it was only Z that had that, like, available.
No, Z is the one that doesn't, which is weird because Z is the one that everybody likes.
I didn't even try to look for the one for Dragon Ball.
I can find it for you later if you want to actually watch Dragon Ball.
Alright, epic.
Yeah.
And, like, the other thing I was surprised about, which is really common in old anime, they're, like, a fuck ton of, like, fan service where it's, like, absolutely not due.
I would say that, like...
I don't know if that's just Dragon Ball.
I would say that, like, mid to late 80s, that's when fan service starts popping off.
Yeah, I mean, jumping back to Zabungle, there's a lot of shots in Zabungle that feature nude characters, nude women, whatever, people responding to that, but it doesn't feel like any of it was drawn to be, like, hot or anything.
Specifically in Dragon Ball, it does feel more like it's just supposed to be, like, funny. Like, like, sex is just really funny.
I guess that is the difference, yeah. But yeah, it just felt like kind of weird and like a shonen, or what? It's not what I've ever pictured Dragon Ball to be.
Yeah,
I forgot when Urusei Yatsura aired, but it was like sometime during the 80s. After Urusei Yatsura aired, that's when the fan service started popping off.
I see.
And it's been that way ever since.
I should clarify that my only prior experience with Dragon Ball is through the Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I watched Dragon Ball Z abridged. So
Norm.
Did you actually watch the first episode?
Oh,
you said earlier that you didn't. I'm trying to figure out if you were memeing or not.
I watched it.
We just don't know.
I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea if Sayu was telling the truth. None at all.
Yeah.
Well, like, you did watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said that you didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chaos.
But yeah.
I've watched things.
Yes. What have you watched?
I'm looking at my Mal right now because I watched like a few things and I just want to make sure I actually say the opinions on all of them. I finished Toradora.
Mm-hmm.
Toradora, I don't know, whenever I finish an anime, I normally like look up like videos about it, and the consensus opinion on Toradora seems to be that it was like a lot of people's like a really important anime to them. Like there were some people who were just like, wow, that was my life for a while. I just loved Toradora. and it's like apparently like a landmark moment in like anime history. Like it's where a lot of people draw the line between like 2000s anime and then like when it started getting more like modern. Like people when they think of Sword Art Online, that's like a new show, right?
Yeah.
Even though it was like, when was it? Was it 2009 or 2010?
I thought I could have thought it was like 2013.
A lot of people think it's newer than it is.
Huh.
But anyway, Toradora is like a new anime. And then like people say like it's one of the important anime in terms of the stylistic progression of anime in pop culture, where it started becoming more like shiny and bright and all that. For the audience, for the record, everything I just said was complete bullshitting. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just thought that Toradora looked more modern than an old anime, and I've heard some people say that Toradora is kind of like the line between old anime and new anime for them. I don't know what popular consciousness is. Sword Art Online came out in like 2013 or something. Just fucking ignore me, okay? I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I thought it was boring. Like, I don't know. I just wasn't interested.
Yeah. I can feel you there.
I thought it was 2012. Sword Art Online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I can definitely feel you there. I've never successfully watched an episode of Toradora. So, you know,
I don't know.
Or anything even remotely
it's
like it.
It's a romantic comedy. I actually thought it wasn't, like, really well written. I felt a lot of the characters were just, like, totally flat and boring.
Well,
that's just where we disagree. I haven't even watched the show. I love that show's characters. My favorite character is
Toradora.
Taiga. That's a character.
Yeah, I mean, Taiga is flat, but, like, in a good way.
You should have said the name of the show.
But anyway.
My favorite character is Dora the Explorer.
That's not her character, actually.
Fuck.
I also watched the first episode of Tenku no Escaflowne, also known as The Vision of Escaflowne. And I am really liking it so far. I'm immediately... I'm putting it on hold for right now. I started it with some other guy, and I kind of regret it because they never sit down to actually watch things. Like, I just started it, and they're like, hey, we should watch the next episode soon. And they're just like, yeah, we should. And that's where it ends. So I'm just going to put that one on hold for now, and if we haven't continued watching it, when I finish Joe, which will happen, I swear. And by Joe, I mean season 1. I'm not going to jump into season 2 right away. I'm just going to watch Vision of Escaflowne because it's so cool.
Okay.
It's like, it's not the first isekai, but it's like one of the progenitors of what we would consider isekai.
It's a mecha as well, I'm pretty sure.
It's sort of a mecha.
It's on my list.
I was going to talk about it. In the show, there's a lot more than there was in the movie. I didn't realize just how prominent the mechas were. Mm-hmm. But basically, whenever they're fighting, they get into, like, these weird... They are mecha. There's a lot of, like, really cool mechanical animation. Like, when they're getting into the cockpit, it's all of, like, these, like, metal lattices that they, like, stick their feet into. And, like, you see, like, the shit turn around and, like, steam's blowing and everything.
Yeah.
But not only are they powered by, like, actual mechanical construction, they're also powered by, like, mana and crystals and, like... People will, like, stick these weird, like, balls inside of, like, these diamonds that your hands can move through. It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Like, fantasy mecha.
Yeah. No, fantasy mechas are really cool. There's not a whole lot of it. It tends to be pretty rare because the genre tends to lean really hard on sci-fi.
Yeah, well, that's what people were really into in, like, the 80s and early 90s. Is just
sci-fi. Yeah. I mean, even here in the U.S., people were really into sci-fi back then. It was It's because the future looked bright and hopeful for once. But yeah, no, one of my favorite shows of all time, Zammed, is a mecha that takes place in like a fantasy world. So yeah.
Yeah. Meryl is also my wife. The other next show that I watched was Star Wars Visions. And I haven't finished it yet. I haven't watched the last episode. And every single episode of Star Wars Visions, for anybody who doesn't know, is just a random, completely non-canon, disconnected, independent short film of various lengths. Like, some of them are only like 9 minutes long, and then other ones are like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Disney just took the rights for Star Wars. They gave like a budget to just all these different notable anime studios. Like Trigger has a couple of them, and then there's Science Saru has another one, and it's just like a bunch of different studios. And they were just like, here, just make something in the Star Wars universe. You can do literally whatever you want, as long as it's like, you know, like presentable for like a TV audience.
Yeah.
And the first one is by Kamikaze Doga. It's called The Duel.
I have heard that one is really good.
It's like probably my favorite one. It's not very Star Warsy. It just kind of it's like a classic Kurosawa samurai film. I think it's specifically based off of one specific one, like Kojimbo or something. For the audience, I never watched a Kurosawa samurai film. But anyway, it's just about like this guy comes to a village and he's like, hey, you villagers owe your taxes or some shit. And the samurai is like, not on my watch. And he pulls out his lightsaber and they fight. And it's just super
like,
stylish.
There ain't room in this town for two of us.
The coolest thing about it is it's just extremely well shot. It's super stylish. It looks like all of the backgrounds and everything, they're kind of styled to be totally black and white because it's Kurosawa. And it looks like it was like really sketchily drawn with like charcoal on like, you know, parchment paper or something. And it is fully CG, like the characters are all CG because it's Kamikaze Doga. If for anybody in the audience doesn't know who they are, I love them, but they have made pretty like unnotable things within popular anime culture. They made Batman Ninja.
Editor, Batman Ninja.
だけど俺にはお前が殺せるんだよ。バットマン。
And they also made they made part of this cool like music movie for an album called Sound and Fury. On Netflix, and I highly recommend that one. It's like 45 minutes long, and it's the funnest thing ever.
Did they do the JoJo openings too?
They also did the openings for JoJo Part 1 through 3.
Yeah.
They're really cool. Everything they do is in CG, but it actually looks good.
Yeah. I don't know how they did it, but they cracked the code. They know how to make anime CG look really cool.
Yeah.
That's why they get manga CG.
I can't spend forever because there's like 8 of these short films. I can't spend that long on like all of them, but there's only like 3 of them which were actually good. So the next one was Tatooine Rhapsody by Studio Colorido, and I don't actually know what that studio is done. I don't care. They probably haven't done anything good because Tatooine Rhapsody was boring and lame.
Yeah.
Lol. Like. They had one of the characters was like this like slug person. Like it was about like a band, and like one of the band members gets like captured by like what's the name of like the big slug person from
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt, yeah. And like he's like, I'm gonna kill you, but then like somehow they set it up that the band's gonna perform in front of Jabba the Hutt at like the pod racing thing. Like it's just straight up like the place from episode 1.
Yeah.
And they do the song and everybody loves it, so now Jabba the Hutt can't kill him. I don't know, it was boring. Episode 3 was The Twins. And this one was by Studio Trigger, directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi. You may recognize it because one of the characters looks basically exactly like the fireman from Promare, like the little twink guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was fun, I guess. I was very distracted because I happened to notice that like half of the time the character cells were drawn like at a really low resolution, so you could literally see like aliasing on them.
Oh yeah, that sounds like Trigger nowadays. If anyone doesn't know, I don't like any of Trigger's works after Kill la Kill.
Yeah, all of the like CG elements, like I mean, the short itself was pretty fun. It was really simplistic.
Yeah.
It was just about like these two like twins who I guess were birthed from some sort of like science experiment by the Empire, and the one of them's like, I gotta get the power crystal, and then the other one's like, no, you can be your own person even though you were made by people. But it was just really like weird. Like there's this part where like they do like a force field thing, and I'm gonna like throw visual examples of this on screen. There's this part where they did like a force field thing, and the force field itself was literally just like a motionless like JPEG that like flashed a few times. And the JPEG itself had like, have you ever tried to like crop a transparency, like you know, use the select tool around something in an image and delete the background so it looks like a transparent thing? Yeah. And there's like all those jaggies around the sides.
Yeah.
Literally had those. Like literally, like I guess they forgot to draw it on a transparent background, and then they like made it transparent. And then like there was, like, jaggies on it.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
And all the like CG elements, like the TIE fighters and stuff, you could like see like the aliasing on them, like they were rendered like in real time. There's just no anti-aliasing on them at all. It was like really funny.
Yeah.
And it seems to just be Hiroyuki Imaishi. It's not Studio Trigger as a whole.
Yeah.
Because Trigger also had another short in this called The Elder, which had a much more delicate animation style.
Imaishi, that was BNA, right?
Yeah.
The guy who directed BNA.
I think he was the animation. I don't know if he directed BNA. But he was the primary director for things like Kill la Kill and the other thing. He's
okay. So the Trigger has two main directors. Yeah. I knew one of them was Imaishi. I wasn't sure which one they were. So that actually, they're the good one. The other one is responsible for BNA.
I mean, you can like look it up on your own time.
Yeah, I
don't
guess.
know if they directed BNA, but it still has a lot of Imaishi's like animation like signature moves. Imaishi got famous specifically just for his animation cuts that he did at Studio Gainax, primarily on Fooly Cooly. He's got a lot of really good ones.
Yeah.
But he's an animator, not a director. The next one is by Kinema Citrus. It's The Village Bride. This one was good. The only notable thing to say about it is, again, it had this weird style. It looked almost like Chinese. I had to like look up what the studio was because it had like this vector style where the way a lot of animation in Japan is drawn is like they do it pixelized on just like a large canvas, and then they use the fill tool to just like put in the different colors.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of Chinese animation, they draw the line work using vectors. So there's no like illustration resolution. They just like kind of use like line tools to like make perfectly smooth round lines. And this one was done like in that style, and I thought it looked really weird. But it still was good, I guess. Production IG had The Ninth Jedi, and I don't need to go over like the plot synopsis or whatever. It was kind of one of the longer ones. Production IG's one was really interesting, I thought, because it really, really felt like episode 4 through 6 Star Wars. Like, it had a really authentic, like, old Star Wars feeling, where, like, it perfectly understood sort of, like, the thematic tropes and, like, the way that things would be framed and sort of, like, how the plot should progress. And even, like, small details, like the way that sort of like ships would move and the way that like bases would be like built into the asteroid and stuff. It was sort of set up as if it was a pilot episode for like a whole series, but it's not, because it's just a non-canon little short film.
They're hopeful.
But if this project was successful enough for Disney to decide to launch like a full Star Wars anime series produced in Japan, I think they should go with Production IG, because Production IG, whoever was on that short film, seems to understand what is like Star Wars more than the actual studios that they have producing the modern Star Wars films.
Yeah.
Science Saru did a funny little thing where it looked like an old Tezuka style.
Oh.
It was like old Tezuka style character designs where it was like the guy with the big nose and he was like making a little robot, and the little robot had like these like those cute little like Pac-Man eyes. You know?
Yeah. Looks like Astro Boy.
It was really really cute. It was also very like simple thematically. Where it's like the little guy's like, I want to be a Jedi, and the old guy's like, no, you're a little robot. You can't be a Jedi. and then
they're called droids. Okay.
And then the science guy gets like captured or whatever, or taken away or something. I don't know. It's revealed that he was a Jedi the whole time, and he didn't want his youngin' to follow in his footsteps. But when he was in trouble, the droid, he really stepped up and he used the lightsaber, and he was a Jedi. He was like a real Jedi. But the animation style was interesting because not only did it have those like really classic Tezuka style character designs, but it also was like a Sakuga fest where like it was really well animated. They had like the crazy CG tracking shots that actually looked good, and just like lots of ambitious animation cuts. And it was like really like epic and cool. The Elder was the other one from Studio Trigger. I think I zoned out while I was watching this one. I watched most of these with some other people, and I think the other people were just talking about something, and I barely paid attention to The Elder at all. So, maybe I should rewatch that one, but
yeah,
I literally don't know what happened in it.
Call it a 0 out of 10 for not capturing you despite the conversation.
The last one is Law and Ocho by Geno Studio.
Mm-hmm.
This was the one with the furry.
Yeah?
Yeah, everybody's seen them, the bunny. And it was kind of like, just basically like a simple story about like, a found family thing where like the bunny was like taken in because they were poor and they didn't have parents. And these guys, they take the bunny and they're like, here, you're part of our family now. But then one of the other members of the family, they join the Sith, and they're like, I don't have family anymore or whatever. But like also they're supposed to have some like ancient like lightsaber passed on to them because like it's like my bloodline. I get this lightsaber because I'm the cool guy. And then the bunny ends up getting the lightsaber instead because they're the real Kazoku and not the other guy because they went to the Sith and they don't respect their family or whatever. The most interesting thing to say about it is that it had film grain and like that little shaky effect, and like it tried really really hard to look like traditional animation, where like even the backgrounds were kind of drawn with like this fake gouache painting style. It had some CG elements, but they tried as hard as they could, while remaining within reason, to imitate like 90s anime film style.
Yes.
And they actually got pretty close, if not for the fact that in modern anime production, line work and character cells just simply are drawn in a different style with different color choices. But in terms of like the technical presentation, like all of the character cells did look like they were like painted like with like actual traditional tools, sort of, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. You have reminded me of something that I guess we're gonna make this a tradition. This is Annie-tuber call-out. Okay?
Yeah.
Jeff Thu of Mother's Basement.
Yes, Jeff Thu of Mother's Basement. We still hate you. Moving on. The actual person I would like to call out is a person that we do like on YouTube. Their name is Caribou-kun, otherwise known as Shabes. Real quick, I just wanted to issue a retraction real quick. Shabes is not a hack fraud. I confirmed with him on Twitter that Zabungle is indeed mentioned in that video at length. I just did not watch it because I didn't want certain series that were in that video to be spoiled for me. So, Shabes is not a hack fraud. I am actually a hack fraud. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, when I was watching Zabungle, I noticed that Zabungle is more or less the same show as Gurren Lagann,
Yeah.
but about double the length.
Yeah.
They have incredibly similar like setups and structures and plot beats and world building and like designs and stuff. It all feels very similar. Like, I can't recommend Zabungle to someone because Gurren Lagann exists and is like a way more refined version of what Zabungle wanted to be.
Yeah.
I still recommend Zabungle. It's still very good, but Gurren Lagann does exist. Anyways, shut up. Shabes made this video that I wanted to watch, and I finished Zabungle, and I wanted to watch it, and the video is titled, What Inspired Gurren Lagann? And I was like, alright, time to watch this, because I finished Zabungle. This video is totally going to be about Zabungle. Yeah. And I turned it on, and there's a spoiler list at the beginning for things that it spoils. It's like, warning, this video thoroughly spoils these properties. Zabungle was not on that list.
Yeah.
Shabes is a hack fraud.
Has Shabes ever watched Zabungle? They've never seen it?
I don't know. They have a Kitsu. They have a Kitsu account.
Yeah.
I don't know how that website works. I've never used it. So I don't know if Shabes has watched Zabungle or not. I don't know. I would hope that they have.
Using My Anime List.
Right? My Anime List is the best website for cataloging anime.
These people are boomers. Any list all the way.
Ew.
My Anime List of like all these like other websites, My Anime List is like the boomer one, where like it has like RSS feeds built into it for like receiving notifications on new episodes and all these other things. It's very like old style, and that's why it's the best one, because websites used to be designed better.
Yes. And also, it makes sense to be working with the same archival source over time, maybe updating the websites and how it's like organized and everything, but like it makes sense to just be building off of the same one over time, you know? Like when I was watching through Zabungle, I was taking screenshots of characters that they didn't have images of, cropping them and submitting them to Mao. None of them have been accepted yet, but like there are a bunch of characters in Zabungle that have no images, so I was providing them. And it just makes sense to be working within this framework rather than like spreading the anime community thin across like 3 different websites.
I don't really know why somebody would want to use a website that's not My Anime List, because it's like, I don't know, what do other websites do that you want My Anime List to do that it doesn't? Like, other than just have a modern layout and like a bunch of JavaScript shit and like nice animations.
Mm-hmm.
Like
maybe a mobile site. That's like all I can see. But like, why would you be updating your list on the go? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm watching anime on my commute.
Well, yeah. You update your list as you're watching it. Like
My Anime List.
I literally do that.
In the middle of the opening for episode 2, though, you're supposed to do that. But you can't be tapping out because that would be like you're not even watching it.
My Anime List does have a decent, like, it has a functional mobile site. If you're using a browser, the mobile app itself is really not good, but it's good enough to at least say, like, okay, I watched this one, you know, if you just want to update it quickly.
Yes. Oh, and I do have, this is done with the Annie-tuber call-out. We love you, Shabes. You're great. Don't take this to heart. I have not watched the full video because on that list of spoiler
wait,
things,
there was another one I watched.
Oh.
I want to get...
Hold on. I did not watch the full video for the What Inspired Gurren Lagann because on that list was Gunbuster. And I am not letting anything spoil Gunbuster for me. I'm so hyped for Gunbuster.
Yeah.
Yes.
The main character's mech dies because they're Gunbuster. Because the main character's mech is actually just a gun.
Okay.
The other one that I watched, it was a movie. I guess I have two things to say. I have two movies. The first movie I watched is I rewatched Patema Inverted, which is a movie that I watched way back when I was first getting into like anime. I specifically had like in high school, I had like an anime movie phase where I remember specifically being like, I like anime movies, I don't like anime series. You know what I mean? Because anime movies just had better animation, and I've always been really aesthetically driven. As well as like anime movies generally seem to be more like traditionally structured and everything, where like anime series have all these like tonal shifts where they go all over the place, and there's things like fan service and everything, whereas a lot of anime movies are far more reserved and more like family friendly and more like fucking basic loser shit. That's how I see it now, because I like anime series more than movies. But this movie was pretty good because it was like a weird sci-fi thing about a world where in ancient history, not like ancient history, but like pretty old history, the scientists of the modern day, they started doing experiments where they started manipulating gravity, and the Earth fought back, because they were like, you're going too far this time. And so gravity just totally inverted for like half the population, where they just fucking flew into the sky, and like buildings went up and then they crashed back down. Like all of human society just totally got fucked. But so long has passed since then, where nobody really remembers ancient history that much, and it's kind of like turned into myth, where like the people who were sent into the sky were sinners, and they were evil monsters who were barely even human. And so the way that society is split up now, I really wish this was a series instead of just a movie, because its setting could use a lot more world building. It was the weakest part of the movie. Is they show you like these vast expanses of like the society that lives inverted, lives underground, and there's kind of like these really good, just weird like structures of like steam just going everywhere, and like pipes, and people live in like these weird like endless hallways. It looked really cool. It could have used a lot more world building. And this young girl, she had like this older sibling who would sneak out to the surface world and take pictures of it, and then they'd be like, see, this is the real world, and there'd be like open skies and grass and everything, but she never understood that wasn't upside down for her, and she like sneaks out and she gets out there and she's like, what the fuck, where's the ground? And she meets this boy, and like who saves her from falling into the sky, and all this weird stuff happens. And it kind of is played this like straightforward way, where the people on the surface kind of want to like annihilate her because she's like the inverted sinner, and they don't know about this underground society. They like the main villain of the movie wants to like he knows that like these inverted people exist, and he's like, I have to find them. I have to kill the demons. And that's how the movie plays out. Until about like we get to the third act, the third of this 4-act movie, and what was it? Somehow these guys end up like flying into the sky. The girl who's inverted has like an inverted weight on her, where now she's just gonna get pulled into the sky even faster. And like somehow in the climax scene it ends up that like she grabs on to like the guy who's like been saving her, and he just like gets sucked into the sky right with her.
Oh my god.
But because like his weight kind of counteracts hers, they're not falling like super fast because they're not being affected by gravity as much, and they end up going all the way up until they reach the dome that the sky is.
The what?
Apparently the real world the whole time was like fake. and all the stars are just like a bunch of lamps.
What?
Where it turns out that these guys were actually the inverted the whole time, and the girl was a real girl.
What? Huh?
Where they've kind of created a fake facsimile of the real world underground, and then later they end up going to the real surface world, where now this guy flies into the sky because he's an inverted.
What?
And I thought that was cool.
Oh my god.
The movie sounds sick.
Yeah, it is pretty sick. It's pretty cool. Like, even if you know the spoiler, there's so much about the movie which is so cool, and it has like a really neat world. And it's just generally like a really entertaining movie in the way that the characters are written and everything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just too short. Like, I really do think it should be like a series, because we need a lot more like elaboration on what like this little underground society is like, and I need more background on like how all this weird like technology works. Like, you know, I want to know why they decided to like how they made the sky, you know, and everything. And it's implied a lot that there is a lot of like world building that they're not showing you. So I can't imagine that like I do imagine that probably they had ideas for more stuff to do and they just cut it out for runtime. The other movie I watched, and this one will be a much less long explanation because there's no plot. This movie had no plot at all. Or rather, it had like a plot that can be summarized in a sentence. It's The Flying Luna Clipper. Have I mentioned it before?
No.
I watched The Flying Luna Clipper, which is a movie from 1985, produced entirely using like MSX PC graphics and FMV stuff. It was one of the first fully digital anime, quote unquote, ever made.
Why a quote?
Well, because if you look up stuff from this movie, it doesn't really look like it's barely animated. It's kind of just like a bunch of sprites like moving around. It's like old PC art where like it's just like really nice like pixel art stuff of like these weird like vegetable people and various things. Okay. Like the movie looks like one of those like really old like point and click games. And that's how the entire movie plays out. And just occasionally there will be like FMV videos like playing on like TVs in the background and stuff.
This movie sounds based as hell.
It's so cool. Like, if I could describe the aesthetic and just overall like feeling of the movie, I would describe it as like being very similar to LSD Dream Emulator, but in like film form.
Yeah.
And it has this especially unique quality to it, because the entire movie is voiced in English, but this is all Japanese voice actors who clearly don't actually know how to speak English, nor write dialogue in English. So conversations play out much in the same way that I think a lot of people's conversations play out in their dreams, where people are just kind of like saying things and like you get an impression that there's like a logical progression to like what's being said, but when you actually try and like think about like what are they talking about, like you can maybe pull out like one point.
Like our podcast, got it.
The entire movie is themed around dreams, so that's another thing that's like LSD Dream Emulator.
Yeah.
The weird thing about this movie is it seems so cool. It seems like something that people should know about more. From what I can tell, somebody just like there was just like a laser disc at some like what is it? Like a pawn shop or something in Japan. Just like some unlabeled laser disc. And they were like, "What's this?" And they were like, "I don't know, it's like a movie or something."
And it was just that movie?
It was just that movie. And they watched it and they were like, "I've never heard of this in my life." They looked up what it was, and they were like, they couldn't find anything on it. Like, this movie just materialized in this pawn shop. And they just uploaded it as a torrent. And that's how the movie came into existence.
When was the movie uploaded as a torrent?
2015.
Is it like listed on Mal?
Yeah.
What? You're telling me we can't get Neo Yokio, an actual anime, listed on Mal? But this thing materializes in a pawn shop in 2015? And it's anime, according to Mal?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, I mean, it was made by Japanese people.
Wait till you hear about the Legend of Korra.
Is that not anime?
It's not, according to Mal.
For the record, it's not anime.
No. It's not even Avatar.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with the assessment that Neo Yokio is not anime. I just take issue with the fact that Yasuke is considered anime by Mal.
But that wasn't animated.
Well, Neo Yokio isn't. Even though they both have the same qualifications. Like, Yasuke was written, directed, like all the important production was done by people who speak English, and it was simply animated by Japanese people in production Studio Mappa. Mm-hmm. Whereas Neo Yokio is the exact same thing, but all the animation was done by Production IG. But simply, I guess, because Yasuke takes place in Japan, that makes it anime, I guess.
Neo Yokio was animated by Production IG?
Believe it or not, yes.
Oh my god.
More proof that Neo Yokio was entirely deliberate. It was meant to look like that.
Oh my god.
I didn't watch Neo Yokio. All I heard about it was the main character was voiced by Jaden Smith.
Have you really not watched Neo Yokio?
No, you guys watched it without me.
Holy shit. We need to have a Neo Yokio watch party.
Right. Yeah.
It's only 6 episodes.
We'll have to do that next time we get together.
It is so good.
Yeah.
We'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Are you done with
that's
okay.
everything.
Before we hop into the main topic, we have a little bit of anime news I'd like to discuss.
Okay.
We are currently about to get a brand new Black Rock Shooter TV show.
Yes.
Wait, what?
And
they greenlit a new one.
They greenlit
2022.
Yep, and it's gonna be okay. We can't know for sure right now. But I looked through the cast list that they have, or not the cast list, the the list of the staff list.
The staff list.
Yeah, I looked through the staff list that we have so far. It's not looking good.
What are they?
It's some guy who only he has his own studio, which is the studio working on it, and the only stuff this studio is credited for is a bunch of very low score light novel adaptations, and visual novel adaptations as well.
Yeah. Do you remember any in particular?
There's that one that Suki was accused of.
Oh yeah, Rewrite. They did the Rewrite adaptation.
Oh, that was good.
It has
Was Rewrite good, or was the adaptation of Rewrite good?
I don't know enough about the visual novel to make that assessment.
Anyways,
I like
so generally, from what I've seen with the sentiment, it's that the visual novel is very, very good, and the anime is very much so not. So in that regard, I'm having the same reaction to this as I would being told that it was being directed by the person who did Danganronpa the animation. So I am very cautious. I am glad that Black Rock Shooter is back. I have missed her, but I am very, very cautious as to whether or not this will be at all good.
I think, to be completely fair, I think if you looked at the people who were working on the original Black Rock Shooter anime, not the OVA, but the actual show, I think it wouldn't have looked very good either.
Okay, but, I mean, look, it's been forever since I've seen Black Rock Shooter, the originals.
Yeah.
Literally since 2010, 2012, somewhere in that range. And from what I remember, the OVA is really good, but the TV show is really, really okay. like painfully so.
I wouldn't say that it was like really okay. That kind of like implies that it was very average and kind of like
instead of being stellar in a lot of opposite directions.
The TV show had a lot of interesting creative decisions.
Yeah.
That some people really like. As from what I can gather, the original Blackrock Shooter TV anime is pretty divisive. Where some people think it's really cool, and other people think it's really retarded.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I remember, the only thing I remember, the thing that made it stand out to a lot of people, is that its fight scenes were done in 3D CG and were directed by someone who really...
He actually did it.
Yes. They were handled by someone who really understood the medium and like what they were doing with these kinds of fight scenes. Yeah. Because the fight scenes in Blackrock Shooter look incredible.
Yeah.
Like, still, to this day, just absolutely amazing. And that's what I'm worried about, is that, I mean, we don't have anything revealed yet for, like, if there's going to be 3D CG or what they're going to do. Yeah. We don't know if there's going to be a director for that or not. And it's incredibly worrying that they wouldn't reveal that first. You know?
Well, I don't know. It's not like they always just come out saying, like, oh, this specific animation director is on the thing. Like,
I don't know, but like when the original one's selling point to a lot of people was that it was handled by this team who was like really good at handling 3D CG fight scenes, you know? Is like...
I don't think it was marketed on that.
No, not...
But that's just kind of what it's become known for.
It was marketed on the character, which the character nowadays doesn't have as much sway as she used to, unfortunately.
In Japan, they're still really, really, like, iconic.
Well,
what was it? I was going through like Virtual Market, whatever the last one was, and Virtual Market is like this, for anybody in the audience, is this sort of like weird convention thing where a bunch of independent creators like sell their own shit in the style of like Comiket, but in VR chat. And because it's VR chat focused, they just decided to host it in VR chat, and it actually has the backing of a lot of really big names, and it's kind of a big deal in Japan itself, in the otaku scene, because otaku have, like, super latched on to VR in Japan. Like, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And so, lots of big companies will advertise their shit in Virtual Market. A Blackrock Shooter installation was put right next to the installation for 3.0 plus 1.0.
Oh!
So,
right.
It was worthy of standing next to Hideaki Anno's final Eva movie. So, I mean, like, I don't know. It's not...
What is that? Okay, but is that a compliment?
I would say in terms of popularity, it's a statement of relevance.
Yes. Hopefully not of quality. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a deep dive on Blackrock Shooter here soon again. Because I would love to actually talk about that, like, on YouTube. I think...
Yeah.
Are there people who have done that? Like, including the OVA, the anime, and the game?
I don't think there's been a lot of talk about, like, Blackrock Shooter, like, media in terms of, like, a retrospective.
Yeah.
I'll take it a bit further. I don't think there's been a single person who's even mentioned Black Rocks and them being shot on YouTube.
There's got to be a couple.
Internet even.
I would love to talk about the game, by the way. I would love to do a deep dive on that game.
I'm sure there's, like, a couple, like, stupid little, like, game reviews for Blackrock Shooter the game. But I don't think, like, they're normally talked about alongside stuff like the anime and, like, the character at large.
And that game is, like, so good. Like, to the point where, like, it blew the fucking memory of the other two pieces of Blackrock Shooter media I had seen, like, right the fuck out of my head, because it is that much better than them. The character is handled so much better there. She is, like, this, like, super great character. The plot line is amazing. The characters are all super memorable.
I always wrote it off when I was younger because it had weird metal music. That's literally it.
Yeah. It didn't use the original Blackrock Shooter theme for some reason.
Yeah.
It used, like, the opening had, like, a weird metal song over it, which I've always blamed Sega for. Because the game came out right around the same time that Project Eva, like, F came out.
Yeah.
The game was very late into the PSP lifespan, and Sega was licensing Black Rock Shooter at that moment. They were like working on licensing it, which probably would have driven the cost up. Okay. So they probably just went with the metal song because it was cheaper. The game was not very big budget, despite being very high quality.
Yeah.
Fun fact, though, it was built in the same engine as the Miku games.
How?
So it looks like the Miku games, but like it's like an action RPG. It's kind of neat. I like it a lot. Anyways, is that good? Are we moving on to the topic?
That's it for anime.
Topic time.
We should have an intermission here because I want to get a drink.
Okay.
Okay.
It is now the 2 Baka podcast.
It is now the 1 Baka podcast. Goodbye, bitch. I'm getting a drink too.
Oh. Welcome to the 1 Baka podcast. I'm just sitting here, alone. A Baka.
I'm back with my drink.
Welcome to the 2 Baka podcast.
Hello.
Featuring me and Sayu and nobody else. Quick, lock the door.
That door did not have a lock.
Barricaded. Nyuu is not entering this room. Damn it, he got in.
Tadaima.
You get a water.
Sit.
I thought,
That's where I was.
but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's my seat.
I wonder how much of this is making it in.
I heard you going on the 1 Baka podcast. You better not be trying to cut us out.
You should move it like this way a little more. You can move it better. There you go.
I
Okay.
believe in you. Okay.
Alright. We're back.
I'm back.
What is our topic?
Movies. I thought that's what we agreed on.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was nothing else. There was no debate about the topic.
Oh, I thought Among Us actually got a few.
I thought we was going outside, actually.
Yeah.
We're all just going to talk about our own topic right now.
Alright,
at the same time. My topic's going outside.
My topic is... Wait, I was the one who didn't want to do movies. Who
For-
was
for
the
the-
one who wanted to do?
For the record, we have the idea of doing the topic, and when we initially decided to make the podcast, what I thought we would do is I thought we would have our own little like miniature Discord with various channels.
Yeah.
And one of the channels we would just like, whenever we have an idea for a topic, we would just like post it in there and we would like randomly select one.
Oh, no.
That never ended up happening, so now we have nowhere to actually put topic ideas, and we just like, we get to the time when it's time to record, and we're like, what topic do we do? And everybody goes,
We totally should have like a Discord.
Okay, but consider this. I have had a single idea for any amount of topics over the past like 2 months, okay?
What if there was just a channel you can put them in?
I would have one entry.
But that doesn't matter. We just put them in there if we think of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways.
I mean, it'd be like the same as our current situation where we just literally think of them like 10 minutes before we go on.
We
Alright,
just
so
like have different like resources and stuff.
yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Movies.
Movies. Wasn't there something you wanted to talk about regarding movies?
Was
Willy
there?
Wonka, the remake. No, not the remake, the prequel.
You have tripled my blood pressure. I shall fill someone in who probably does not know. Sayu, have you ever seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or its remake, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
I think it was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Which one had the guy with like the weird goggles?
That would be Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the newer one.
Yeah, they have announced
That's also the only one I've seen.
Yeah, they have announced that they are doing a prequel movie called Wonka.
Yeah.
Just Wonka, right?
Lots of like series need to be one word, otherwise you'll never remember.
You know, like
Exactly.
Sherlock, Supernatural.
Yeah. So they're doing a prequel film, right? First things first. The idea of doing a prequel series based around telling us the origin story of Willy Wonka is fucking stupid. And is something that I can only imagine came from the head of like a completely out of touch, brain rotted, like dementia-ridden, very old man who is still running a big film company for whatever fucking reason. Like, what? Why? Willy Wonka's whole thing is that he is, like, absurdity, like, personified, right? Yeah. Like, let's just take from the newer one, because that's the one you guys know.
The newer one does like hint at his history a little bit,
but it's completely insane.
Like only insofar as to give him some like thematic meaning,
and like also make him crazier because his backstory does not make sense.
Like his father or something lives in the middle of like an Antarctic wasteland.
No, so the thing is like he leaves his house when he's a child, and like to like go explore the world, which is him walking to the airport and walking around in like a tourist shop for 20 minutes. And when he walks back, the space in the city that his dad's house was is now empty. It's gone. And
now he lives in like an Antarctic wasteland.
Yeah, there's
in seemingly like a pocket.
God, I love that movie. And like
I don't remember any of this, brother.
I fucking love this movie.
This was like a childhood movie for me that I only watched like one.
And it's like
it was a childhood movie for me that I watched like 15 times.
It fucking terrified me, like with that kid in the tube.
Yeah. No, I fucking love that movie. It is like I could do a whole breakdown of how stylistically interesting that movie is. Like the Oompa Loompas, like it takes like a well-adjusted normal person to do what the original Willy Wonka did with the Oompa Loompas and just frame them so they're like away so that you can't see their size relative to everyone else. Paint them orange and just have them sing a little song and then walk away. And just the new one, like it's one guy. And he's copied 1,000,000 times over every scene, and he's like singing these big like ballads and like rock anthems like about children dying, and it's just such an incredible film.
I know a lot of people have complained, like a lot of like film guys, they complain about like the remake with Johnny Depp and everything. Compared to the original, where they're like, oh, the original's a masterpiece, and the new one just doesn't do it justice.
They're both masterpieces.
That's kind of what I feel. Never watched the original. I kind of feel like I won't enjoy it as much as the new one.
No, definitely
But I feel like the new one in isolation is kind of like a masterpiece.
Yeah. So, I mean, God, I can't believe I have so many opinions on fucking Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but here I am. You can tell which movie I obsessively watched growing up. I loved both movies, which is kind of a weird, contentious point. I get a lot of, I really like the new one, I didn't like the old one, or I really like the old one, the new one was bad. But, I'm the only, one of the only people I've ever met who's like, they're both masterpieces. Yeah. Because, they're both very different movies, despite the fact that they're adapting the same source material. Yeah. The original one is much smaller in scope, where the new one is very, the bigger the better. It's very grand, you know? And they both lend these certain qualities to what it is to be the Willy Wonka character, you know? Johnny Depp adapts to the role very perfectly by playing a very silly, over-the-top version of Willy Wonka, where Gene Wilder is way more subdued as the character, but you can tell by the way he's acting and moving and interacting with everything, there's a screw loose up there. That something is up with this guy and it is not safe to be around him, you know? It's like in the original, do you know the boat ride scene? Very famous scene where they're in the boat and it's careening down the river and you know it's playing the scary music and everyone's screaming. That scene in the original is all of them sitting in the boat and the Oompa Loompas are churning the thing, they're making the boat move and they're how do they see where they're going? And Gene Wilder goes, that's the thing. They don't. And like I wish I could like editor put up like an image of what he looks like when he's doing that.
Hey, this isn't funny, Wonka! You can't possibly see where you're going, Wonka!
You're right. I can't.
It should be really easy to find because it is like a perfect scene in the movie, and like they start like going down the tunnel. It's pitch black. It's like playing these like horrible scenes over everything, where it's like bugs crawling on people's faces and stuff, and he's sitting there like staring straight ahead into the darkness, like mumbling this fucking tune that is like completely deranged. It is such a good movie, and like the sequel, like they played a very good strengths of storytelling, right? Yeah. And like I think they are a very good like duology of movies, right? Yeah. And if you were going to make a modern day Charlie and the Chocolate Factory adaptation, I think the thing you should do is adapt the new movie adapt the old movies or the old book per se under a new director, and have that director sort of handle it in a style that is very unique to themselves. Like I can't think of any good directors off the top of my head.
That's the really fun thing about book movie adaptations is you can do them multiple times, because a book, you know, assuming it doesn't have any like illustrations and shit in it, can produce so many different images within readers' minds.
Yes. And Roald Dahl was really good at that. And he even had illustrations in a lot of his books. And they turned into a very mixed bag of movies that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory tends to be like one of the more better remembered. There's also stuff like Matilda, which the original movie is like this fucking super masterpiece. Like that scene with the kid eating the cake is just glorious. It's the best thing ever.
This is like the one instance where I feel like a remake or like a readaptation would be cool.
Yeah, I love to see
instead we're getting a prequel.
Yeah.
We go over the origin story of Willy Wonka.
Like, a character that has never needed an origin story. Because what Willy Wonka is a theme in the story. Yeah. You know, Willy Wonka is like the unpredictability of life, you know?
Yeah. And also like just a fucking like deranged businessman.
Yeah. And like
where, like the further you get away from like normal human life.
Yeah, the more detached you get.
You become a cartoon character.
Yeah. And like it's very like I love analyzing these original movies because there's so much you can read into Willy Wonka's character, you know?
Yeah.
My favorite interpretation of him is that he's just a representation of the unpredictability of life. Yeah. Because if you watch through the movies, you know, both of them, the constant is that Charlie wins in the end. Yeah. All of these other spoiled rich kids end up getting failed by the system in some way or another. They slip through the cracks, so to say, sometimes literally, and like they are left as like these husks of what they once were when they're leaving the factory, you know? Yeah. And Charlie wins. He wins it all, and he's literally like a poor kid. Nothing is interesting about him. He's just like a boring character.
He totally, like, I mean, by literal random chance, like, opens the fucking chocolate bar and
like wins the lottery, you know? And it like changes his life permanently. He inherits the factory, and it's like life is a completely unpredictable, like, mishmash of chaos, and Willy Wonka is here to teach you that, you know? And they are giving this character an origin story.
It's kind of like the antithesis of like the American dream, like started from the bottom. Now we're here, like where like instead of hard work and determination, it's literally just like random fucking chaos. Where, like you just kind of made it.
Yeah, exactly. I love the movies for that. I think they're great. The original book is also really good in that regard, of course.
And in that sense, it's actually more accurate.
Literally, Roald Dahl is like he's a very smart man. Or was very. Is he alive? I don't think he is. I would bet no. Probably not.
Book or like
That's the writer. Yeah, the writer of the book. Anyways, this new movie is like a prequel thing, right? And the thing that bothers me the most is the reason I found this out was because Willy Wonka, like I accidentally opened the trending tab, saw Willy Wonka on there and was like, wait a minute, what? And because it was accompanied with a post that was like, here's the look at the new Willy Wonka. And I was like, what do you mean, new Willy Wonka? What is happening? And they've cast this guy who I've literally never heard of ever in my life.
Now, granted, we don't know celebrities.
True.
We're not like weird normal people.
Exactly. It's like
Weird normal.
It's like, well, I mean, we're weird, but we're not weird normal people.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I
like,
just said that. I didn't even think about it.
yeah. So like they announced who it is, and they gave us like a single like image of him in the costume, right? The costume, quote unquote. They
Looks
put
like a dude.
They just took a very plain-looking white man and put him in a suit and a vaguely Gene Wilder-styled Willy Wonka top hat. Heaven is staring at you very closely.
I'm aware. I can see him doing it.
Okay. Anyways, ignoring
the
that.
costume is really toned down.
Yeah, no, it's super toned down. Like the thing about Willy Wonka is that it was kind of fun seeing the way that they would unveil like a new costume for him, you know? Like the original Gene Wilder costume is like iconic because it's just this horrible mishmash of colors and like different fucking things. He's wearing like 2 coats.
Yeah.
He's just this gross, weird man who doesn't know how to dress himself. It's like a perfect representation of the character. And like he's like wearing like a what is that fucking like the undercoat?
I don't know what clothing is called.
Yeah, no. He's wearing like a vest that's like fucking like green and like brown or something, and like his overcoat is like purple and his top hat is brown. Like it's just this mishmash of colors and I love it. And then you go to the new one where it's a much more sleek design, but he looks like a fucking space alien.
Yeah, he is like really, really just bizarre, like overly like posh fashion.
Yeah.
And he's like literally like ultra white. Like he's literally like white skin.
He is like the smoothest motherfucker on the planet. His hair is like perfectly bobbed, you know?
Yeah. When I was younger, this is kind of like not really related that much, but when I was younger, Johnny Depp was one of like the only actors that I really like knew the name of and like remembered and like notably would be like whenever he's in a thing, it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because the 2 movies I knew that he was in was, you know, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then the Pirates of the Caribbean. And I was like, that's not the same guy.
I respect the hell out of Johnny Depp. He is such an amazing actor. It's really unfortunate that they only let him play one character, and that is Jack Sparrow. Even if he's not Jack Sparrow, they only let him play Jack Sparrow.
Have you ever watched Rango?
Yes, I have once upon a time.
Rango is so good.
He's the main character.
It's his other best role.
Yeah, and he's such a good actor when they let him really get into the role, you know? A lot of people will disparage him because there's this one role that he played that was like somewhat notable for some reason.
Yeah.
The Lone Ranger got a remake a while ago, like a Disney tier remake, and in it, he played the Indian, Tonto, I believe his name was, or the Native American. They call them Indians in the movie. Yeah. Because of course they do. Thank you, Disney. I believe his name was Tonto. I could be wrong. I haven't seen the movie in like a million years. But in that movie, his character is just Jack Sparrow, but he's a Native American. That's it. That's the role. And he, like, yeah, sure, he's funny in the role. I guess it works, but the movie itself wasn't good. So it doesn't really back it up. You know, the thing about Pirates of the Caribbean, at least the original, is that it was a good movie, first and foremost. You know, it's a very engaging film. And Jack Sparrow, like, added a million extra layers to making it good. Yeah. And I think ultimately that is the role of an actor in a movie, is that if done right, they can really elevate the source material to, like, really be something special, you know?
Actors more of like a magnifier, like an indication of quality.
Yeah.
I don't want to turn this into the Joker episode, but I will give Joker this. Despite what I will say about everything else in the movie, I feel like a lot of the reason why the Joker feels like such a great film is because the actor for the Joker, I forgot his name, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, that
guy. He is unbelievably good at acting. He really like elevates the entire movie, and the movie is like engaging mostly because he just such a fucking fantastic performance. Mm-hmm. From what I've heard, he actually like suggested several changes to the film, like in production. He is a lot of the reason why it came out as good as it did. Even like according to people who actually like the movie and respect it artistically.
Yeah.
But yeah,
those weirdos.
But actors can do a lot.
Yeah.
I do not condone these people's hate speech towards.
We're saving the Joker debate for fight night. Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of something I wanted to say about Rango. Do you know anything about Rango in terms of its production?
No, not really.
They created it in a really weird way where even though the movie wasn't made with mocap or like a lot, I think it has like some mocap in it, but most of that animation was like hand tooled.
Yeah.
They kind of got all the actors just like on set. Like they created like these little sets and they like filmed a lot of the movie like as if it were a live action movie. That's how Johnny Depp like it was mostly because of him, because Johnny Depp was the big talent on the film, and Johnny Depp works in this specific way where he really gets into character, and he sort of like lets a certain kind of personality and like all these natural mannerisms that a character will have emerges while he's acting. So he was like, I can't sit in a booth. And so they filmed it like a normal movie, and then that ended up becoming the film where they sort of reanimated it over top of the original like reference footage.
That is a really interesting way to get like a normal Hollywood actor into an animated movie.
Yeah, and it's the best it's ever been done. Like
literally,
no other like voice talent movie has ever actually used its actors as well as Rango.
Yeah,
and the movie turned out really unique for it because it is filmed in a really unique way, and the performance of Rango himself is like so unique and like perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Johnny Depp's a great actor. We're very glad to have lived at the same time as him. Yeah. I do hope that he continues to get roles. There's a lot of shit going down with him right now.
Yeah.
He's been kicked off of the Pirates franchise. He's been kicked off of, he was in those really bad Harry Potter films, like spin-off films.
Which one?
He was in Fantastic Beasts, I believe it was.
I don't remember him being... I watched that movie. I don't remember him being in it.
He's in the second one. The Crimes of
Grindelwald.
He is Grindelwald. He's like the main villain.
Oh.
I've never watched the Harry Potter spin-off.
They're bad. They're fucking terrible. I mean this in the nicest way possible. As somebody who grew up with Harry Potter, who firmly disavows the TERF who wrote it, and wants her to go away, and I wish we could just still enjoy the stories. God, do I hate Fantastic Beasts.
I kind of have like a few of those like, really like normie franchises that I am attached to just because I grew up with them. Like when I was talking about Star Wars, I am a person who grew up watching like, I've seen the original 3 Star Wars movies a lot, and I also liked the prequels even when I was younger. I consumed a lot of Star Wars media. I love Battlefront 2, the good one, not the EA one. I also played a whole lot of like Knights of the Old Republic on my Xbox. I was just big into Star Wars. I had one of those books that was full of like schematics for all of the different like starships and shit, and I thought that was fucking epic.
Yeah.
I also read all of the Harry Potter books, and I'm sure I've seen all of the Harry Potter movies at least like 3 times over the years.
Holy fuck, yeah.
Sometimes at least as recent as like late high school. I literally cannot remember a single fucking thing that happens in all of Harry Potter other than the scene where Hermione drinks the potion and turns into a cat.
Of course that's the scene you remember. Of course. No, as someone who grew up with the films specifically, I can take or leave the books. It's the films, really, that, like, I'm attached to, Yeah. Those first 3 Harry Potter films are masterpieces. They are really, really well, like, directed and shot and scored, and there's just a whole lot to them that disappears as the series moves on, you know?
Yeah.
They lose John Williams as the person who's composing for it. They probably lost the director. I don't really know who directed the later ones, but they feel very different.
I've
As
heard
films.
that the last 2 movies were directed by someone else.
Well,
Yeah.
The thing I keep hearing as I grow up more is that all of Harry Potter is just like kind of garbage, actually. And I want to like watch the movies again to kind of like
The thing is,
know if that's true.
They made really good movies. The problem is the books have a lot of very yikesy content, such as the bank people. A little bit yikesy.
Well, wait, in the books, were the bank people as sexy as they were in the movie?
The bank people are described as people with hooked noses that control all of the currency.
Oh, I didn't know the books.
If
like,
you draw a connection to a certain group of real world people because of that, I think that says a whole lot more about you.
But yeah, let's not forget the literal slaves that resent the idea of freedom.
They love it.
They love being enslaved. It's what they live for. Oh my god. Yeah, no,
I mean, I think it's a decent parallel to like dogs, you know?
No, I don't know. The films are really good because they take this very, I'm gonna be honest, very, by today's standards, standard YA fiction franchise that, in my opinion, doesn't really do a whole lot that interests me from a writing standpoint.
Yeah.
And they take it and they sort of take it in this new direction that's very like whimsical and fun and magical, and you can see the magic with your eyes with like the special effects in the originals, like they weren't anything to write home about, but as a child watching these movies for the first time, when he goes swish and flick and he casts the spell and like the thing actually starts rising, that's like, whoa!
I think a great part about like Harry Potter, at least I remember feeling this, was I was not big into fantasy when I was younger. I was one of those kids where I was like, I'm a mature kid. I only like mature things like sci-fi. I'm not into magic because magic's not real. You know, just like God. But I did like Harry Potter, mostly because it has a fantasy setting which isn't like derivative of like Tolkien. It's not just like I don't know, an RPG.
Oh my god, I am so sick of Tolkien settings. I'm so fucking sick of them.
All Western fantasy settings, like
are the same thing.
Ever since Lord of the Rings, all of them have been the same.
All of them. Yeah. It's so fucking boring.
Including the Lord of the Rings film.
Yeah.
Also, I think this is a big, one of the big reasons why Harry Potter was such a success is it is an isekai.
Yeah?
I mean, it's literally like the little loser kid who is completely unnotable and worthless, just like you. They get swished away into the magic world.
It is like the concept neutral version of the isekai.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how many people do you remember, like, describing, oh, when I was a kid, you know, I was always waiting for my ticket to Hogwarts, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yo, I remember, when I was, like, when I was, like, really young, I don't remember how old, but, I had a dream once where I, like, had a Harry Potter wand.
Yeah.
And it, like, worked. I, like, just bought it from the store. And for, like, a whole, like, day and a half after that, I was still in, like, that state that you're in, like, when you wake up where you still believe your dreams are real. And I just thought that when I got home, I could play around with that more. and I was really sad to learn that, oh, wait, well, fuck, was that a dream? What the fuck am I thinking? So stupid.
No, one of the things that I think really makes Harry Potter stand out, right, is its setting is incredibly timeless in terms of a lot of things about it. But more specifically, the setting feels like you could just substitute your own house into it, and nothing would change. You know, like you could be like the 10-year-old that suddenly gets the ticket to Hogwarts because
you're the chosen one.
Yes, the books and the movies go a long way to making you feel as though Hogwarts actually exists in the world that you are in.
Yeah.
And it is something that I think a lot of regular fantasy misses out on, or young adult fantasy specifically, really misses out on. Because that's the thing you want. You want your readers to be really inspired by what you do. Instead, they all copy Tolkien. It's all Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I'm sure Lord of the Rings itself is great.
It is.
But like
it's very
overdone.
The thing about Lord of the Rings is that its setting being really overused doesn't, at least as far as the movies. I've never read the books. I will never read the books.
I hear the books are really good.
No. I don't read books. I read manga.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the thing about the Lord of the Rings is that even though its setting feels very overdone nowadays, it's the journey that takes place in that setting that is like the core of the movie, you know? It is, they run into orcs and fucking dark wraiths and whatever else you want to put into your fantasy setting from a D&D book. And they run into all that, but like the thing that feels really refreshing about Lord of the Rings is that the characters are such a big focus, where like it's this like weirdo cast of characters from like a bunch of different races that are just sort of teaming up and like running around and doing stuff, and it's their relations that really define a lot of the story. Yeah. They take a lot of moments in these huge fucking battle scenes to focus on just two characters, and these characters will just be having a conversation in the fight, and it'll be like, that'll be the focus of the scene. Yeah. And that is, to me anyways, what makes Lord of the Rings very watchable nowadays, despite the fact that it is the origin of a lot of cliches in fantasy nowadays. Because of that,
talk a lot about all these like big movies that like everybody knows growing up, like the Willy Wonka and the Harry Potter and the Star Wars. But I feel like the moment that I realized that you could make a movie with pictures and cartoons, I was a lot more interested in animated movies than like real ones. Yeah. And that's why I got into anime, because anime had good animated movies. Like, I've never been a big fan of Disney. I've always thought Disney movies were really uninteresting. At some point, I marathoned like most of them, starting like in like the Renaissance period. Yeah. And I just thought they were all lame.
No, that's the thing about Disney, right? Is with a few notable exceptions, most of their films are really, really lame. Yeah. They're very predictable. They're very like by the books, very by the numbers. Gotta keep it sort of in this like family friendly like valley, There's a couple exceptions. The Princess and the Frog is a very like fun movie.
It was definitely cooler.
Yeah, no, like Dr. Facilier like carries the whole movie, unfortunately. But like there's a lot of like fun stuff in that movie that like Sayu, are you ever going to watch that movie?
No.
Okay, there's like a scene towards the end of this movie, like they're traveling, they're both frogs, they have like an alligator friend, and then they have a firefly friend of the alligator, and towards the end of the movie, someone swats the firefly, and he dies on screen. He never comes back. They just fucking kill him in the middle of the movie. And it's like tragic and depressing, and it's just a bug. And on top of that, like, Dr. Facilier's whole plan is he has to, like, sacrifice a couple people so that, like, the spirits can take over New Orleans or something like that. Yeah. But, like, he breaks that pact, right? And the thing about Disney movies is they're at their best when their villains are good. Yeah. For example, like, The Little Mermaid is a very unremarkable movie for the most part. But whenever Ursula is on screen, you're having fun. Yeah. She's, like, the best part of the whole movie. And that happens a lot in early Disney.
Yeah. Like, I forget where I heard this, but I think, like, it was pointed out to me at some point that the reason a lot of people love the villains, specifically in Disney movies, is that they were the characters that were enjoying themselves.
Exactly.
Like, they actually, like, smiled a lot, and they were really, like, they laughed about stuff, and they were really just reveling and everything.
Yeah, they were enjoying themselves.
The rest of the characters were a bit more like goody two-shoes. They're, like, just kind of, like, stuck, like, almost a little uptight, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And the idea of the movie is that the character would loosen themselves up by the end, but like the villain has already stolen that spotlight for themselves, which is why I think a lot of Disney movies don't work. Dr. Facilier is actually a great example of this. By the end of the movie, like the characters just sort of all get what they wanted from the beginning. You know, they have to compromise on a couple of things, but it's like, you know, it all sort of works out in the end. But Dr. Facilier is like this guy who's just like, you constantly see him like conniving and scheming, and he's got like this really great body language. He's really lanky. He moves really well, and by the end of the movie, he has failed in his ambition separately from what the other characters have done. He just fails on his own merits. And before this, he's just like killed by these spirits that he was supposed to be setting free. They just kill him. The last shot in the movie he's in is him like getting dragged to hell, basically.
I feel like that's a much better way to handle like a villain that's like enjoyable to watch than just having them like, oh, the good guys defeat the bad guys.
Exactly. Like Ursula becoming an all-powerful sea goddess and like then getting rammed through by a ship or whatever, you know, that Ursula didn't, like, get defeated. Yeah. Like, nobody learned anything from that. Like, I don't know. It feels weird. But, like, having Facilier, like, fail in his own ambition to, like, take over New Orleans and then get dragged to hell of his own accord, it's, like, a very fitting end for that character, you know?
You know, like, the gates to hell are locked from the inside or something.
It's a very good send-off for that guy. But, I don't know, the Disney villain thing is always very interesting and weird to talk about. There's a lot you can dissect with them, and they are by far the most interesting parts of the movies. I find animated films from America like way more interesting when you leave the traditional Disney behind and you just sort of start looking elsewhere, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more interesting ones. I mean, my favorite like Western animated film, and it is still like a fairly big one, but it was a massive financial failure, is the Iron Giant.
Yep.
That one was so cool. When I was younger, I didn't really realize that a lot of the movie was like weird Cold War shit because I didn't know anything about like modern history. Like I just thought it was like big robot, big military man. That's kind of cool. But like no, now that I'm older, it was I like how it played with like all that weird Cold War stuff, but also made it like really like engaging for like children, and all the characters were super cool. You know, obviously I love the artist man.
Yes,
you know, he's like kind of my role model. Is like just to sit in the middle of a fucking junkyard and make a bunch of shit no one cares about.
Yeah. If we're just sharing favorite animated movies from America at this point, my favorite one, and I've given it some thought over the years, you know, there's no, like, my American animation list, so I can't exactly keep track of everything I've watched. I could make an IMDb, I guess. Yeah. But my favorite is this small movie. It got really bad numbers again, but it was still a fantastic movie called Cats Don't Dance. Yeah. That is, like, the whole film is just, like, really obviously, it's just about racism in Hollywood. Like, it's barely a metaphor.
I forgot, when you showed me that movie, was it also your first viewing of it, or did you already like it and you showed it to me?
I had seen it when I was a kid. Okay. So it wasn't technically a blind viewing, but it was all, like,
because I have memories of, like, we watched that movie, and, like ever since, you were like, damn, that was fucking
No, it is a fucking great movie. It is so good. And, like, on the subject of villains, it has a really fucking good villain. Yeah. Darla Dimple. She's, like a substitute for, like, all of those Hollywood children, you know? Like, child stars.
Child star, rich
kid. Shirley Temple, fucking, and she's just, like, massively racist against, animals. Animals can't perform. They're not supposed to. But, like, the movie takes, like, this really weird turn. Spoiler alert for Cats Don't Dance, if you've somehow never seen it. Like most people haven't.
I've never heard of it.
It's such a good movie. Anyways, the movie takes like this weird turn where it like starts pulling out like biblical allegories where she's like an angel and she like floods the entire film lot and all the animals have to get aboard like a big boat and ride on the fucking storm and it's like Noah's Ark and it's like, what is happening? What is even going on? I love that movie a lot. It's super great. But yeah, no, like the film itself is like super well animated. The animators, I looked it up later. The animators actually like swore to like never do it again. So the film was handled by Universal, I believe, which did a bunch of reshuffling right when the film was releasing, which meant the film had no advertisements.
That's good.
Absolutely none. It had no theater standees. It barely had a fucking movie poster.
Of these big, like movie publisher studio people, I swear that they like conspired around trying to take down like traditionally animated Western films.
Literally.
Like, because it's the same story with the Iron Giant where like Paramount or whatever they were. I think it was Paramount.
What year did the Iron Giant come out?
It was like a slightly newer film. I'm pretty sure it was like 2003 or something.
I thought it was around that time too, because Cats Don't Dance was sabotaged, I believe, in 1999 or 8. One of the two.
Like late 90s, early 2000s.
The same fucking thing happened to Treasure Planet.
Yeah, that was Disney.
Yeah, like it was all of them. It was every animated film. It wasn't getting advertised. It like nothing was getting shown for it. It didn't have trailers. It just sort of popped up and then it left the theaters and they're like, oh, guess it was a failure. Let's move on. Let's CG movies. Look, Toy Story did good.
Iron Giant was 2000 or 1999.
Oh, okay.
Holy shit! It was like the same time.
I guess I'm kind of like judging when the movie was based on how it looks, but my like.
It's a lot harder to do that.
My judge for what movies look like what is all based off like Japanese films, which are always a little behind the times in terms of technology.
Oh my god, Iron Giant looks good. Like the only stuff I remember from that movie is how fucking amazing all of the fucking movements looked.
Yeah. The Iron Giant themselves was pretty much entirely CG, but it really worked.
Yeah, it felt natural in the as natural as he could in the world of the movie because he was this unnaturally large, weird, big robot.
Yeah. I feel like CG tends to work a lot better in like Western animation in terms of like when it was traditionally animated.
Yeah.
Because Western animation is already normally always animated at a pretty high frame rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like there's so much like playing around with variable frame rates, which they almost never replicate on the CG elements of the compositing, which just totally messes up the whole aesthetic.
Yeah. There's speaking of like Disney and movies and good villains, The Nightmare Before Christmas is another really, really, really good movie.
Yeah.
That is like very memorable. I'm probably going to watch it at some point this year again because it is October now, so it's finally time to watch the movie again.
It's the spooky month.
It's the spooky month.
I was gonna say, like, even though I've always gravitated more towards animation, and specifically Japanese animation, because Western animation as an industry seems to be just really, like, handicapped, I would say. Like, my favorite, I honestly, it's, like, up there, like, right next to The Wind Rises, is, like, favorite movie of all time, Speed Racer by the Wachowskis, 2008.
Yeah.
It's unironically, I would describe it as a flawless film. Like, I would say that.
That's pretty good to hear.
Not only is it flawless, but, like, the themes and everything is so resonant and, like, absolutely, like, fantastically executed. The final race, the final scene, is, like, one of the absolute most transcendent climaxes of a movie like I've ever seen. You know that scene in like Space Dandy, the racing Space Dandy episode where like he literally like accelerates and becomes part of like the universe himself?
Yeah.
It like feels like that without literally textually getting there.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched Speed Racer, I got it.
Though if you are an epileptic, don't watch it.
Sayu, do you have a favorite American film?
Favorite American film?
Let's just say Western in general. It doesn't have to be American.
Yeah. I gotta say, probably Joker.
Yeah. All right.
Unironically?
It's an American? Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
like Western, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever like watched very much like Western film?
Not really. My only other choice would be like fucking like Hercules.
Yeah.
Or like probably like one of the Harry Potter movies from what I know,
Yeah.
like, a little bit I remember. I haven't like there was like a gap where like sometime like in the middle of high school I just kinda like decided like Western movies just like weren't worth watching at some point.
Yeah, I mean
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I didn't like so like I kinda like almost went out of my way not to watch them. So I don't remember so I don't think I watched any of them, and then I just kind of like never started watching them ever after that even. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't watched that many like Western movies in general.
In terms of like film, I like this thing that like a lot of films that also have like TV series to go along with them do.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Pokemon movies were really known for this, where like the TV show is kind of like a fun like romp, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just like a bunch of goofy stuff, and then like the film when they make a film, it's like everything's turned way up. There's more like serious stakes, you know. It becomes like a big deal now, not just in terms of production, but it makes you feel like, oh man, shit's going down.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's really good. Like Pokemon, like you said, is really good at that because it feels like it starts like an episode of the show, and then it just escalates to this point that the show would never get to, and it feels like, oh, this is it. This is the climactic moment. Yeah. This is what everything was leading up to. You know.
I was gonna bring up on that note a movie that really sticks out to me in recent memory. Now it's not a recent movie, but I watched it not too long ago. As I started watching Twin Peaks, and I'm not going to spoil anything about Twin Peaks because you gotta watch it.
Yes.
It's fucking great. The TV show, the first 2 seasons, is kind of goofy. There's kind of like this underlying like evilness that you know you can feel shines through on occasion. It's obviously like sort of about some paranormal stuff. And it's literally about like solving a murder mystery and stuff like that. But overall, the show is pretty fucking like goofy and funny. Like Cooper's entire character, that's the main like FBI guy. It's kind of like implied several times that the FBI is like fucking like out there. Like, you know, like, and Cooper is like this bizarre, like, spiritual man who almost like is unconsciously manipulating the laws of the universe around him. Like, he solves mysteries literally like by going on, like, he brings out a whiteboard and tells everybody like, okay, like sit on the tree stump and like knock these things over, and based on the way they'll fall, you know, I'll write something down here. And somehow this complete like nonsense ends up just like by pure chance leading him to the correct answer like multiple times in a row. Like literally the entire show is conspiring around the main character, and it's almost like brought to like a comical like forefront focus, and that's all like played for laughs in the actual show kind of. And then the movie just becomes absolutely like evil. Like the movie is genuinely one of the most like disturbing films like I've ever watched that's not like actually a horror film. Just the way that it's framed, the way that like the character sort of like progressively like breaks down over the course of the movie. And I'm not going to say which character it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, by the time you get there, you'll understand. And just like everything is just so fucked up.
Yeah.
But somehow it works. Have you ever watched anything else from that director?
Can't say I have off the top of my head.
Okay. They also did Eraserhead. I
Oh,
love Eraserhead.
I've never seen Eraserhead itself. From what I have heard and from what I have seen, because I have in proxy seen the movie, that I would not have gotten anything out of just watching Eraserhead. I watched the Nick Spears like thematic breakdown.
I think even if you like just watched it like totally blindly, you definitely would have gotten like something from it.
Yeah. Probably a curse.
Complete reinforcement in like your decision to not have children.
Yeah.
I feel pretty validated.
God, Eraserhead is. I have seen a lot of the imagery of that movie, and of course, a thematic breakdown. So I know what it's about, and oh my god, that is not a film I ever want to watch.
It's good.
There was a movie I was going to bring up. I was going to bring up my favorite movie, non-animated, non-Japanese movie.
Yeah.
I could bring up my favorite Japanese movie, which is very entertaining. I was going to
talk about more Japanese stuff in a minute.
Yeah, so we'll get there. But my favorite movie is this very, very small movie that I am certain is about to be literally the first mention of it on the entire internet. This little movie by the name of Shock Treatment.
Yes.
Shock Treatment is I believe 1970-something musical film.
It's kind of old.
Yeah, musical film from the creator of Rocky Horror Picture Show. And so Rocky Horror Picture Show, for those of you who have not seen it, is sort of this deep dive into LGBT culture of the time.
Yeah.
In terms of the view of it from a straight person, a cis-het lens
LGBT stuff in that time period is so fucking wacky. I don't even comprehend it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the basis of the movie.
Yeah.
Is that the culture of that time period was very hard for people who were outsiders of the culture, a very normal couple, Brad and Janet, who just sort of were getting married, and they just sort of stumble into this environment where all these people don't make any sense to them, and they're fucking sexual deviants, the whole lot of them, and it's like the whole film is just them being fucking culture shocked the whole time while just shit happens around them. If you watch that movie, nothing actually happens to Brad and Janet outside of a couple things that are sort of fringe things that just sort of lead into the climax of the movie. Yeah. Every other event of the movie is happening around the main characters. Meatball busting his way out of the fridge. No, Meatloaf, that's his name. Meatloaf as Eddie busting his way out of the fridge and then immediately getting killed by a pickaxe. That just sort of happens around them. All the other characters fucking murdering each other towards the end, that just happens around them. It's just a very odd movie.
That's just what the LGBT community was like back then.
Yeah, exactly. No, but the film is genuinely really good. I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's a very entertaining film. Shock Treatment, on the other hand, is almost this weird reversal of.
I remember feeling almost more clinical.
Yes. So Shock Treatment is where Rocky Horror is the introduction of the weird to the sort of normalcy of America.
Yeah.
Sort of the change and breakdown of social values. The point of Shock Treatment is that these values are there for a reason and they are upheld for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's sort of it's such a weird movie coming from literally this guy who made Rocky Horror. And the whole film is fucking incomprehensible on first watch, okay? If you tell me that you got the movie when you watched it for the first time, you were lying to me.
I think when we watched the movie, I recalled saying directly to you, I don't get it.
Yeah. I have, for context for the viewers, I have seen this movie about 9 times.
I've only watched it once, and it was the initial time we both watched it.
Yes, I would be down to watch it again with you, to make it 10. I will watch this movie over and over again. I literally own it on DVD. The DVD was only distributed by the fan club that, I don't know how many of them even exist, to be honest. It was only $10. It wasn't that expensive, but I'm not sure how big of a run it had. But it is such a bizarre movie because the film is a musical about the absurdity of stardom, essentially. Yeah. It is a normal person, Janet Majors, who essentially throws away her entire life. Her prospect her, like, the possibility of her having a family, essentially. She throws away the possibility of, like, marriage. She throws away her husband. She throws away her parents. She throws away fucking everybody, chasing this, like, dream of, like, stardom. Yeah. And it all is sort of, like, being manipulated by, like, a big Hollywood exec, or a big, like, fast food exec, as he is in the movie, that, like, owns the whole movie studio and is able to control, like, the public opinion for himself. Yeah. And it's, like, all in service of, like, getting her to marry him instead of the other guy. And it's, like, it's this, the core of the movie is this idea that, like, we value the things we value in society for a reason, and the rise of things like reality TV and, like, the way television specifically is set up can erode those values and lead to extremely unfulfilling lives for those who spend their time in front of the television and for those who spend their time like, actually being on TV. True. It will just destroy the lives of people, and it is not, like, a great thing to have. And
unlike the internet, though.
I was about to say, the point of the movie really expands everywhere. Like, it is insane how prophetic this movie was in terms of, like what it predicted about internet culture and celebrity culture and all this other crazy shit. Like, oh my god. O'Brien's, like, literally like a fucking psychic.
You could say it's a lot like Serial Experiments Lane.
Yes. It is as close as America will ever get, which is funny because the film is British. Anyways, like, the movie is just like a mishmash of a million concepts and a million plot points that are being thrown at the wall, just seeing what will stick. And it is, like, a wonderful movie. I love it to death. All of the music's really fucking catchy. So, like, even though you're confused the whole runtime, it's like, there's never a dull moment, you know? And even now, there are still moments that don't make any sense to me in terms of the context of the movie. And there's, I don't know, it's full of a lot of weird plot beats. I get that it's probably not a movie for everybody. Yeah. But, I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of like a weird, like, little niche art house movie almost.
Yeah, it is very entertaining, and it's only compounded by the fact that it is by the same person that created one of the biggest musicals of all time. Like, what the fuck? And it really, like, musical is weird. I like musicals to some degree, you know? I definitely think stage shows tend to prop them up a little bit more. Yeah. But musicals, to me, are best used when it is people in very absurd situations. Yeah. Which almost de facto justifies the singing, you know? When, like, Brad in Shock Treatment is literally sedated, like, completely, like, fucking out of his mind. He is bound to a chair in a literal prison cell, like, high on a million medications, and, like, there's a bunch of people fucking dancing around him in circles, singing nonsense lyrics, you know? Like, that's, like, part of the film experience. It's part of, like, what the characters are experiencing. Like, there's a musical coming out soon called Dear Evan Hansen. Do you know anything about Dear Evan Hansen?
No.
Dear Evan Hansen was a stage musical that essentially it is about a kid kills himself, and someone in his high school wanted to get something out of that. I don't necessarily know the whole plot details. It was either that they wanted something off of the kid, like they wanted, like, something he had, like some money or something, or that he wanted his parents to not think he was such a fucking loser that he just killed himself because he had no friends. Yeah. So he faked, like, a million email conversations that they had together, and was like, look, see, I was your son's best friend. And, like, he used that to get really close to the family. And it's this really, like, oddly tragic story that's, like, sometimes it's kind of played for laughs, sometimes it's not. It kind of goes back and forth, and it's being adapted into a movie, and I already preemptively think it's going to be fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing about the movie that really feels like it would be added to by being a musical, but they are keeping all of the songs.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense at all to me.
This is really unrelated, but have either of you ever watched Arrival? The movie.
Is that alien movie where like
it's the one with like the alien ship that's just like a big crescent.
Yeah, and they like go inside it and there's like aliens behind a glass wall and they like have a language and the movie is like about like figuring out the linguistics of this alien language. Yeah. I remember that film. I remember really liking it, but I don't remember anything past like the halfway mark.
It was like really good.
Yeah. I like how this episode that we're making now about movies in general, which, has been Western, hasn't been us complaining.
Yeah.
It's been weird. But Arrival was really good from what I remember.
We started with the complaint topic, we got it out of the way, and now we're just like, good movies.
Yeah, good movies.
There was something I wanted to say about Arrival. I can't remember it though. I don't know.
We'll come back to it.
Really cool.
But I think I've said everything I wanted to say about shock treatment, to be honest. Although that's not possible. I've never said everything I want to say about shock treatment. I have literally considered doing like a fucking like scene by scene like breakdown of the movie on my YouTube channel, where I just go through the whole fucking thing. I break down all of the songs, all their lyrics, all of their meanings, like break down fucking everything that's going on and like in depth explore what this movie is about. But ultimately that's impossible because the movie is about so much shit at the same time.
Occasionally like YMS does like things about movies that he thinks are actually good. You do something like that where it's like, have you ever seen his Synecdoche, New York? Okay, it's like
nope.
It's like a lot of parts. And all the parts are pretty long.
Yeah.
I think right now he's
still making it. He's been making it for like 6 years.
Oh my god.
There's a few things that YMS has been making for like 6 years. Like
best movies of 2015.
He's been that one. And also, if I recall, hasn't he been working on his Lion King review for like since the movie came out?
Yeah.
Like the new Lion King?
Yeah, the new one.
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that came out at some point, but
no. He released the hour and a half long Kimba video in the process of making the Lion King video.
Yep.
Because originally it was going to be a part of the Lion King video, but then he just separated it off and made it into its own project.
I see.
Now keep in mind, the hour and a half long Kimba video is a subsection of the larger Lion King video.
Oh my god. YMS, I don't know, I unsubbed from his channel recently because it feels like he has no turnout, and it's because he has no control over, how long he makes his projects. Just, none.
Yeah. The problem is with YMS is he makes these large projects, and normally the larger, more passionate projects are genuinely, some of the best stuff on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
In between it, he releases the quickies, which are just, really boring, fucking, lame first impression reviews of, every, I almost called them, seasonal, but, just, new movies.
Film festival movies.
And most of his content that he makes just to, regularly put stuff out is really boring. I kind of wish, he's one of those channels where I wish I could just subscribe to the large projects and nothing else.
Exactly, yeah. Which is why I ultimately unsubscribed, because I don't need to be notified about everything he uploads. I'm okay with just hearing through the grapevine that, this YMS review is out. Yeah. And then I can go watch that one and be excited, because, holy shit, there's a new YMS review. That's the first one in, 2 years. I don't know, yeah. I don't pay attention to, film YouTube at all.
Me either. No, I actually really don't like film YouTube. I don't like much of reviewers in general in terms of Western anything, especially cartoons.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of Western film people don't really have what I'm looking for in my
I mean, there's
whatsoever.
There's a reason I watch a lot more Japanese and specifically otaku stuff than Western film, because there's so many elements of the Western film industry culturally
that I just think produces shit that's boring and I don't like, and I think it's just really uninteresting and unengaging. Yeah. And the reviewers are a big embodiment of, like, sort of a lot of the things that I don't like about Western media, where, like, they'll talk about, like, all these different elements of, like, the structure of the movie, in a certain... I don't know how to describe the specifics. Maybe I'll go into it someday, but they just look at things in a way which I think is not good and makes things that suck.
Yeah. I definitely agree. You did mention Japanese films. So I would like to mention that I have seen exactly one, I don't know if we can call it like classical, but one older Japanese live-action film.
Yeah, which is that?
The movie, and it was very good, is called House.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of House?
No.
So
it's a horror movie.
Yes.
Okay.
The basic, well, it wants to be.
Yeah.
I don't know how scary it is.
Alright. That's interesting, because a lot of Japanese horror is, like, the scariest shit that you can watch.
Literally fucking, like, I'm straight up, from me to the viewer right now, if you are, like, faint of heart, if you, like, can't handle horror, and someone tells you that they're gonna sit you down and let you watch, or make you watch, like, Rango or Ju-on, don't let them.
Yeah.
Those movies are, like, fucking horrifying.
They are psycho attacks.
It's weird how horrifying, like, Japanese, like, movies are, like, horror media is, for how, like, kind of shit all, like, trying to be scary, like, anime is.
Yeah.
Well, anime is just from a totally different place, culturally.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but, like, it's just kind of weird how, like, no anime gets how to be scary. Like, the Junji Ito adaptation.
It was, like, so bad,
There are, like, no good horror anime. You know, I'm really looking forward to the adaptation of Uzumaki. Other than that, I don't think there's much hope for horror anime.
That's
Ideon is like the scariest anime I've ever seen, and it features a fucking fire truck. Okay, if you don't know or remember, Ideon, while being a mecha show, is actually like cosmic horror. Like, at its core. It is a cosmic horror franchise. Humans unearth a monster of which the scope of it is not even possible to be understood. And that is the big fire truck red motherfucker robot, okay?
Oh, yeah. But, House. What about it?
Yes, House. House is this movie... essentially, I'll just give, like, a plot rundown, right?
Yeah.
I will make you watch it someday. Sayu, I don't really care much for making you watch it. I mean, if you want to, you can. I mean, yeah, no, it's a very good movie, and believe me just telling you guys the plot won't ruin it.
Yeah.
It is, like, so good. But essentially, it starts off as, like, a very weird movie, where, like, this girl... Like, she has her dad and her mom, and she loves them very much. And then her mom suddenly, like, dies tragically.
Yeah.
And then, like, her dad gets remarried, and he's like, I think you should become friends with your new mother. And she's like, no, that's not my mom. I don't love her at all. I hate her. I want her to die. Blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, or her mom's like, oh, I wish she'll come around eventually. I know. She'll know that I love her. And I think she loves me too in her own way. And then she looks through her mom's old possessions, and she finds a phone number of a great aunt that she didn't know she had. And she's like, oh, she knows my mom. Maybe she'll like tell me stories about her. And she's like thinking about this, and her friends like walk up to her at school and they're like, hey, what's going on? I heard your mom died. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to go visit my aunt out in the countryside if you guys want to come with. And they're like, oh, that'd be fun. Let's do a fun little friend road trip over spring break. That'd be so fun. Yeah. And they all get onto a train, and they go out to the countryside, and they walk out to like this old woman's house that they've never met before. And they show up sort of unannounced. They don't really like call ahead. And she's like, oh, who are you? And they're like, she's like, the girl's like, oh, I'm your like great niece.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's good. Why don't you guys come inside? And as they come inside, like, all of them slowly but surely end up getting picked off and killed by the house. But, like, the way that it's handled is so fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not like Ju-on or Ringu, where it's like, the scares are really intense and horrifying, and it's like, oh my fucking god, what is happening? It's like, they're almost funny.
Yeah.
Like, one of the girls who dies, she's pulling up a watermelon out of the well, because they keep them in the well, right?
Yeah.
They, let them float on top. And for some reason, she just, her head just comes off. Or she, disappears, and someone walks up, and she's like, where'd she go? And they're like, oh, she didn't even pull up the watermelon. She's fucking useless. And she pulls up the watermelon, and it's the girl's head, but she's, still talking. And she's like, hey, what's up? And then she starts, flying around. My favorite one is, there is this girl, she sits down to play piano, right? Yeah. And the piano starts, chomping on her and, eating her.
Why did I have to say one of these videos?
It's such a good scene. Yeah, she gets, eaten into the piano, and she has, body parts sticking out of it, and her hands are, playing on the piano by themselves, and her butt sticking out of the top of the piano, and her head flies over and looks at it and goes, ooh, scandalous. And it's such a bizarre movie. I don't think I perceived anything that happened in it past the halfway mark. It is all just nonsense, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in watching that one.
Yeah, I do know a friend who has it on DVD, so I'll see if I can borrow it for a watch party.
I have not watched a lot of Japanese live-action film.
They seem very interesting.
One that I have watched is from Hideaki Anno. Did Shin Gojira.
Yes.
And it was really good, honestly. I don't know how to describe it. There's sort of this really cheap quality to it. And I've noticed this is a thing about a lot of Japanese live-action movies, specifically tokusatsu, or special effects.
Sayu attempting to very quietly open a can of pop.
I don't know how, soda, but I don't know how to open it quietly.
We're starting this debate now. It's fight night. Is it pop or soda?
It's soda.
Oh no, dog. No. The dog just tried to walk through the wire for the microphone.
Oh.
I want more anime directors to direct live-action films, because it feels directed in almost the same way as classic Neon Genesis Evangelion, with the weird camera angles. Apparently he wasn't just doing that to show off that the animators can draw and animate walk cycles from those weird perspective shots. Apparently Anno just really likes filming things from bizarre angles. And there's all these weird shots where Anno will put the camera in the screen of a laptop that's being passed around throughout the cast, where you can see the contents of the screen overlaid on top of the camera.
Oh my god.
The camera's being passed around as people look at the data, and that's how you get the reaction shots where they're oh my god, and then the other guy shows up and he's oh my god. But instead of showing every individual person's face, they're just looking at the camera.
That is an incredibly anime way to handle that. Anime does that kind of thing all the fucking time.
Also, just lots of really, really quick, snappy shots where somebody will be bouncing their leg, and you'll get half a second of somebody's just shoe, and then it'll go back.
Yeah, I really want to watch Shin Godzilla. I've heard it's amazing. On the other hand, there is a Godzilla movie I have seen.
Yeah.
And it really illustrates... we talked a lot so far about really, really good American/Western movies.
Alright, but who won though? King Kong?
But King Kong versus Godzilla was awful.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It was... Okay, to be very fair to the movie, it was awful in a lot of ways that I enjoyed. Yeah. Nothing about the film's characters or camera angles or shots or anything was like at all good.
Yeah.
Like all of it was very flatly directed. None of it was like very interesting. None of the characters served any purpose. The film never went anywhere. But it is completely unhinged in terms of like the actual kaiju fights. It's they have a whole fucking half of the movie dedicated to moving the big monkey from wherever he is, Skull Island, all the way down to the like Antarctica to get him into the center of the Earth, where the Earth is hollow and gravity flips, right?
Yeah.
They have a whole fucking arc of the movie for that. And he explores down there for like 30 minutes, and Godzilla, standing up at the surface, decides it needs to get down there.
Yeah.
So it fires a laser straight down into the Earth, drilling its way into the center. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
I've never seen a Godzilla or King Kong video of any kind. This movie is just bizarre, like extremely uninteresting to me, in much the same way that Batman vs Superman was. And I hear it ends up pretty much the same anyway.
Yeah, no, neither of them actually like win.
Yeah.
It ends in a stalemate because it's like interrupted by Mecha Godzilla.
I'm gonna go back to like.
Oh no, it's Mecha, the 3-headed guy.
Yeah,
I don't
one.
know any Godzilla lore.
Yeah.
They're kaijus. It's whatever.
Yeah.
To speak about Shin Godzilla again. Have I talked about the movie much before? Because I don't know how much I've already said.
Not a whole lot.
Okay. Well, the thing is, like, outside of just like the really cool, interesting like directing style. Also, they like literally reuse music from Evangelion. Like, you know that song that it plays when they're like about to shoot up the Evangelion on the thing where it's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
They play that in the movie. Like when they're about to like launch an attack.
The Anno classic.
It starts in like this weird way where like Godzilla kind of like evolves over time, and they start as like this really goofy looking like wiggly CG guy. And he's just like a kind of a big lizard that's kind of just like shambling towards the city.
Yeah.
And like, you know, obviously they're like breaking some stuff, and like, you know, pushing some water into where like houses are and stuff. And so it's like the government's getting a bunch of calls, like the domestic military's like being notified and stuff. And it starts in this really like kind of funny way where it's really quiet. There's like almost no music. Like it's kind of like very like, you know, just open, lots of wide shots pulled back from all the characters. And they increasingly begin like talking more and more about the situation while nothing is actually being done about it. It'll keep like cutting back to what like weird little like wiggly Godzilla's doing.
Yeah.
And it gets like really funny where like they'll call a meeting and they'll all like argue about like what they should do, and then like they'll reach kind of the conclusion that like we got to call this other department. And so like, all right, we'll call those guys. They call them up, and like they start talking about it, and they're like, all right, call a meeting. And then they'll start arguing, and then they'll do the same thing with like, all right, we got to call the other guys. And then they'll call those guys. And it just keeps like doing this for a while until like some people are like really mad. And eventually it's like, all right, we got to tell the prime minister right now. We got to launch a domestic military attack, you know, to defend ourselves from this thing. But they can't do that, you know, until they get the prime minister's okay. So like they're like, we got to tell the prime minister right now. There's a big fucking wiggly lizard man, and we got to kill him. And then it's like, a prime minister's not available right now. You know, we'll send in a notice. And it's like, we gotta talk to him right now. And it's kind of like this really like goofy critique of kind of just like portraying like Japanese government's bureaucracy as kind of just being like a big bumbling mess of like all these guys. These guys can't even handle the big wiggly lizard man coming in.
He was too busy telling all women to die. It's fine.
And really quickly, this evolves into Godzilla has like evolved a few times, and where once you were laughing about the goofy bumbling like, stupid government people that can't do anything right. Tokyo has now been like flattened in like World War II style, like, firebomb imagery, and like everybody's like really, really, really culturally getting some PTSD right now. And it's genuinely like one of the most like hard hitting, like, if there's any way to make like Godzilla attacking the city feel like a traumatic like war scene, they really like toned it up to fucking 11.
Yeah.
Because like the first time I watched this movie, I was like in tears at like the firebombing scene where like you just see all of like this shit that you've like come to see throughout the film, like Japanese society being all like nice and stuff. And like because of like the absolute incompetency of like all these different things, and like, like Godzilla is the result of like, different like just fucking total lack of foresight with regards to like fucking with like the ecology and stuff. Now like countless lives are ruined.
Yeah.
The entire city is being like flattened, like the same that it was like 70 years beforehand in World War II. It's like it's fucking it's like a really, really hard hitting movie. As well as Godzilla is not portrayed in the way that he has been throughout the Godzilla, fucking lineup of goofy movies, where Godzilla has come to be like kind of like this big fighting, lizard kaiju man. In this movie, they're very force of nature, and the entire time, once they're in the more evolved state, Godzilla literally seems like they're like in constant agonizing pain.
Oh,
like they're not the malicious. They're just, like, kind of, like, abused by their own biology. Where, like, they are literally, like, a nuclear reactor, and they can, like, feel the constant burning inside of their body.
Oh, my God.
And it's, like, a really fucked up movie.
Oh, my God. Maybe I should give that one a watch someday.
Yeah.
I bet I'd really like it, but I don't know. When it comes to watching movies, I have to sort of be in the right mood.
Yeah.
To sort of sit down with one. Oh, I finished Zabungle.
Yeah.
That means I get to sit down, take a break from Mecha for a little bit, and watch Satoshi Kon movies.
Yeah, you should do that.
What was the first one you said?
The first one is Perfect Blue.
Yes.
Followed by Millennium Actress, then the one that I always forget, Tokyo Godfather.
Yes, and then
that was a Christmas movie. You should watch that one on Christmas.
Okay, and then Paprika.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I've been told that I probably would like Paprika the most, so we'll see.
It's a lot of people's favorite.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm very excited to start taking a look, because I really like Paranoia Agent. So we'll see how all of it goes.
The thing is with Satoshi Kon movies is they start like, very like serious. Perfect Blue is a horror film. It is like probably the most genuinely unnerving horror anime that I've seen.
Yeah. I've heard this before. They turn into very abstract works.
I would say Perfect Blue is far more like genuinely unnerving than Paranoia Agent.
Yeah.
Paranoia Agent just has more like I don't know, relevant themes to somebody's actual life.
Yeah. Paranoia Agent is like an interesting one. It's not exactly a movie, so it's a bit off topic.
But as Kon progresses, their movies become more and more lighthearted.
Yeah. Paranoia Agent was the last thing they released, right? Before.
No, it wasn't. The last thing they released was Paprika.
Really?
Yes.
That was when they were shot with a pancreatic cancer gun.
Yeah.
Got it. God damn it. It hurts. It hurts so much.
I mean, their final film that they never got to finish was supposed to be a children's movie. Like, the progression of, like, they went from, like, the scariest anime ever made to Little Baby movie. So, like it was just kind of progressively more and more lighthearted.
Paranoia Agent is a weird one on that scale.
Yeah.
Like, Paranoia Agent as, like, a series is is a fascinating one to talk about because there's a lot of meat to dig into there.
Yeah.
When it comes to like what the series is trying to tell you and what like a lot of these details are.
Yeah.
And like, okay, there's one detail. I never got to talk about Paranoia Agent because I finished it before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I think like 2 weeks before we started the podcast. So I didn't really get to bring it up. But Paranoia Agent itself is like, it has this character in it. What is the pink dog? What is their name?
I forgot the name of the dog, but just like the mascot.
Yeah, the little pink mascot dog. In like over the course of the series, it like talks to its creator all the time, and it like. What does the little dog want?
Pet.
Editor, that's making it in.
Okay.
Anyways, so like the little dog, pink dog person, right? It's like a replacement, like a surrogate for like this dog that this person let die when they were like a kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they blamed the young boy with the bat on the rollerblades who ran over and beat their dog to death and left.
Yeah.
And that wasn't what happened at all. They just weren't watching the dog and it got hit by a car.
Yeah.
And it's like this traumatic memory that she's like substituted in has like destroyed her entire life and turned her into an anxious mess. And she can't even like process normal emotions anymore. And it's like, it's about like, towards the end of the series, she realizes she has to let all this go.
Yeah.
She has to let the dog character go. She has to let the golden bat go. She has to let the lie go. She has to forget about all of it. She doesn't have to go back and resolve any of it. It's all already resolved. But she needs to, like, learn how to move on from it instead of, like, coping in these really bad ways that she does. And, like, you know, the series is about coping going wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And, like, I note, like, very interestingly, and I hope this continues throughout Satoshi's other films, is that in the ending of Paranoia Agent, when the dog is being let go, the dog isn't a villainous figure in that moment. Yeah. It's not like she's gripped by it or anything. In fact, the one who tells her to let the dog go is the dog itself.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's better for you this way. You have to let me go. You have to forget about me. It's okay. Yeah. And it's like, I really hope this kind of trend continues in the other Satoshi movies, where like, this is not at all how any even anime director would have handled this. The very quote-unquote anime way to handle this scene would have been the dog going all evil and like being the bad guy in the end, when that isn't at all what happened. And I'm really hoping that is a trend that continues.
Satoshi Kon is basically like defined by like, or I would say that like through all of the works that Satoshi Kon created, you kind of like, there kind of emerges this picture of a person who greatly like sort of like struggles to understand like the relationship between like reality and fiction, and or at least like has a lot of thoughts about like in popular culture the relationship between reality and fiction, where in Perfect Blue you get the difference between a stage persona and the actual person, and like by the end of the movie it's literally impossible to tell like what is the real person and what's like the weird delusional like stage persona.
Yeah.
In Millennium Actress, you like, it's this giant pondering of like how much of this actor's life like was like their life and what actually happened in it, and their kind of like strange like memories of all the roles they've ever played kind of like blending into what they remember as being like their actual history as like a person, because they're kind of old and are like implied to have some form of like early dementia.
Yeah.
And when you get to actually the one that's the most grounded is Tokyo Godfathers, but I think you could say it's kind of like about like the way people actually are versus like the way that culture builds like these perceptions of what certain kinds of people are like and how that actually ends up
influencing their lives.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy of, like, the fiction that people have collectively created for different demographics influences the lives of those actual people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, the last one is literally about the separation of, like, the fictional world of people's imaginations, i.e. their dreams, and, like, the way that people perceive actual reality, and how loose of a line there actually can be with the way that technology will progress.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's Satoshi Kon's entire career is all about these differences between fictions and realities and how similar they actually are.
Very interesting that this creator died with an unfinished movie.
Yeah.
It's almost like a meta commentary by itself.
Yeah.
That movie was about works being left unfinished, and we'll just never see it. I mean, if you think about it, in the public consciousness, that is what the movie is about.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever seen it, and we've always just accepted that it will never be done.
Yeah.
Even though there's still the co-director alive, nobody's going to be able to replace Satoshi Kon on that.
The co-director, like it's almost like anime-esque in reality. Like the co-director, literally, like his final promise to Kon was that he would finish the movie, and even he now is like, I don't think it will be finished.
It sucks that it won't.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet the movie could still turn out pretty good if they just used the bones that Satoshi Kon gave them and sort of worked it out on their own.
Well, this is the problem with the way that Satoshi Kon directs films. This is the real Satoshi Kon problem. Stop.
The dog is upset and we don't know why. Maybe
it's because I'm not petting her, but like I can't just be petting her for the whole episode.
Yes, you can. It's okay. We're probably almost done.
Okay.
We have been going for almost 3 hours.
Alright, we'll stop after this.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one thing I just wanted to say about
I
that.
actually had like a movie I kind of want to talk a little bit about.
Talk about it. Go.
There's this one Korean movie that I really like. It's called Old Boy.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a fucking like ultra masterpiece. But the director, like, he made other movies too. There's this one called Thirst that's also like really really good.
Yeah.
I don't know how to talk about it.
I mean, I don't know. I definitely like Old Boy is one that I've watched video reviews of. I forget from who.
Probably YMS.
I was about to say, was it YMS who did one?
YMS did a comparison with Old Boy, the Korean one, and the American reinterpretation.
Yeah, we'll call it that. No, I have definitely heard that Old Boy is very, very, very good.
It's extremely good.
Yes, and I highly recommend to everybody in America, please start paying attention to the people who are creating your media. It like matters, believe it or not. It matters a lot.
It's like it makes it way easier to find new things that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And also,
believe it or not, the actors that you see on screen actually don't make the movie.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of the time, I mean, it really depends, of course, but sometimes they have very little effect on the movie.
Yeah, I said this earlier. They're like a multiplier. Like,
yeah, they're just something that can enhance the movie. You know,
the main guy who matters is the director. Everyone else pretty much doesn't matter.
Yeah, for the most part.
I wanted to keep saying about Satoshi Kon. The issue with the Dreaming Machine, which was his final movie, is the way that Satoshi Kon worked is he was kind of one of those like weird savant genius writer people, similar to, perhaps controversially, I will assign that label to Nomura, the guy who directs the Kingdom Hearts games and stuff.
Yes.
Where Nomura has been greatly praised and simultaneously criticized by basically everybody who works at Square Enix for having this like inhuman ability to juggle like large concepts and large swaths of like information and themes.
Yeah. Hence
like,
Kingdom Hearts.
Within his own head but he can only like manifest them into a product kind of like directly. Like he doesn't write out a bunch of production notes and like hand them to people. Like so like the way that the Dreaming Machine is left is there are some parts of the movie which are just like fully done. They're just like fully produced. And then there's entire like sections of the movie which haven't even begun pre-production.
Oh my god. Oh my god. What, like, could there have been a worse director to die early? Like, literally?
Yeah. Like, he has the whole movie...
True.
He has, like, the whole movie in his head, as is described by his producer. Like, his producer was really, really close to Cohn. They had, like... They were kind of considered, like, this golden duo in, like, the Japanese film industry. It's like, if there's this guy and this producer... there's a couple golden duos. One of them was Osamu Dezaki and whoever his main producer was. Mm-hmm. And Cohn was kind of considered to be like that kind of relationship where there was a director and there was a producer and they were inseparable.
Yes.
And so Cohn and this guy did have a really close personal relationship. And as he describes it, the producer, he says like, the entire movie, in like a finished state, could be seen inside Cohn's head, and nobody else saw it until it was like put into real production. You know.
Oh my god!
And so nobody has like real solid production notes to create the rest of the movie off of, and nobody really knows what like the thematic like pieces of the movie really like what the through line would have been. It's not finished enough.
Yeah. Oh, that is painful. You know what that reminds me of?
What?
What is the name of that movie that got just absolutely fucked?
The Thief and the Cobbler.
The Thief and the Cobbler.
Yeah.
For those of you at home who do not know the story, The Thief and the Cobbler was going to be an animated movie that wasn't it produced by like one guy?
Well, not really. It was produced and directed by I forget what Richard Williams.
Yes.
Richard Williams is an absolutely legendary animator. Mm-hmm. Like, globally.
Yes.
He was the guy who helmed the animation for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which, whatever you think of the movie, is an absolute marvel of animation. Mm-hmm. And he kind of literally wrote the book on animation.
Yeah.
Like Disney... very closely studies like the teachings and workings and styles of Richard Williams. Richard Williams wrote a book called The Illusion of Life, which is basically what the entirety of the Western animation industry to this day is taught with.
Yes. And The Thief and the Cobbler was a movie that was directed and like produced almost entirely by him.
Yeah.
By himself.
It kept getting tossed around to various production studios, but none of them wanted to work with him because he kind of wanted it to be his masterpiece. And
yes.
As he described it,
very strict.
A lot of studios weren't like, in the business of making a masterpiece of animation.
They were in the business of making something that was passable and could sell.
He had a lot of production materials, and he would often work on the movie out of pocket, just producing like the key animation and all that shit.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, it would get greenlit by a studio. He would work on it for a while, and that's where the bulk of the real animation work got done. Mm-hmm. He was kind of doing pre-production on his own, but then like it would get greenlit by a studio. They'd work on it, then they would drop it.
Yes, and he would sort of be left with all these production materials that he would take to the next studio, who would greenlight it, work on it for a bit.
Yeah.
And this approach is precisely what killed the movie.
Yeah.
Because he got taken to, what is the name of the final studio?
Miramax?
Miramax, yes, you are correct.
Yeah.
Miramax was the last studio that was handed it, and they decided, we own the rights to it. There's a most of a movie here.
Yeah, this time when they booted him off the project, instead of like leaving it to him, they said, you don't own it anymore.
And they kept it. And they turned it into like a sing-along American like musical movie that absolutely nobody fucking liked.
Yeah.
Not a single person who went to like go see the movie was like, yeah, that was great. It was always like, oh, this is like not good.
Yeah.
Like, because they were forcing it to be something it wasn't. Without like the creative lead that created the rest of the movie. And it's like eventually, over time, he's dead now, isn't he?
No.
No?
No.
What do you mean?
He's just not...
Alright,
I
sure.
mean, he's not, like, super old. He's just, like, pretty old.
Okay. Anyways, so I guess he's still around. That's cool. I'm glad to hear he's alive.
Who wanted to fight, him or Tomino?
Tomino can barely walk nowadays.
Can Richard?
Yeah, no, Richard Williams. I mean, he's still, like, animating stuff right now.
Yeah. Apparently.
He made, like, a short film a while back.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that he's still going. Good on him. Considering he outlived literally Disney. The man. Anyways, so eventually people knew generally about the story of this movie. It wasn't like super well known, but eventually it was just like, you know, a bunch of fans were like, this is bullshit. And they just...
Amongst, like, super animation buffs, specifically, like, people actually in the animation industry, the movie was, like, ultra legendary. According to legend, and by legend, I mean actual facts. Yeah. Disney has one of the, like, pre-production, like, VHS tapes of basically, like... Or not... Yeah, they have the film reel, I mean, of, like... the production version before, like, Miramax totally fucked it up. And they show it to a lot of their staff, and their staff will, like, study it for, like, animation techniques.
Oh, yeah, that is a very unique movie to do that with. Yeah. Considering the state that it's in, where it's, like, a chunk unfinished. I don't think we have that full reel out, do we?
I do believe that the reel, there's a VHS tape of it, which was found. That's why I said it was a VHS tape.
Oh, yeah.
But Disney has the actual film reel.
Okay, so we have the one that got released a while ago, that was like the recobbled cut, I believe was its name.
The recobbled cut is the fan-made compilation of all the materials in the highest quality versions that we could find, kind of like trying to recreate what was Richard Williams' vision at the latest stage of development for what the overall plot and progression of the movie actually was. A lot of it is still completely unfinished and devolves into, like, storyboards and shit. Mm-hmm. Some of it had to be totally, like, redrawn just, like, by the fan project.
From what I have heard, it is still a really good movie.
It is really good. Still.
Yeah. I hope that someday we could see a return to traditional animation. I don't think that Disney is... I think they're a greedy, horrible, evil corporation, obviously. Yeah. But I don't think the people who work at Disney want 2D animation to be dead. Yeah. So I feel like...
Strangely enough, Pixar themselves actually has dabbled in 2D animation and says that they're thinking about making even a feature film in 2D.
Please? I
wonder what modern Western 2D animation would be like.
Klaus. We literally have no fucking idea what it would look like.
It would look like Klaus.
I don't know what that movie looks like.
Have you never seen Klaus?
Never heard of it.
It was a Netflix film that got famous for being traditional animation, but they applied really interesting digital effects work over it to give it sort of like modern CG-esque like lighting effects.
Yes.
So it looked like almost like 3D animation, but all of the frames and everything were drawn in 2D.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of another unfinished movie.
I also just hear it's good. So if you ever want to watch like Western animation from like, a couple years ago, watch Klaus.
Okay. There is a movie. I believe it was a DreamWorks movie? I could be wrong.
I know what you're talking about. Cars 2.
Yeah, the best movie ever made, Cars 2.
Definitely by DreamWorks.
Yes. There is I think it's DreamWorks. I'm going to go with DreamWorks. If I'm wrong, whatever. Nobody cares.
Tom canceled.
Cancel. Nobody will understand what I'm referencing. Anyways, so the movie is called Me and My Shadow.
Yeah.
Have either of you heard of it?
Nope.
Okay. So the idea of the film was that it was a man who would be taken control of by his shadow, who wants him to do things, essentially. That's the most simple it gets. There's like a whole world of shadows where shadows have their own will, and there's like a shadow king, and there's like a bunch of evil shadow people or whatever, and it's just like a guy who's like being tugged around by his shadow, making him do wacky hijinks, right?
Yeah.
The plot of the movie was nothing special, but the idea of the film was that it was 3D CG, but the shadow was going to be traditional animation.
Oh, I remember this.
This film is super interesting in terms of concept, because they did a lot of wild stuff in the test footage. Like, he would be, like, holding a lamp out like this, so that, like, his shadow would be, like, you know, like, being cast around him, and they would, like, set it up to be, like, a projected, like, 2D animation up on a wall in CG, and that is like crazy. That is so cool. And we have that shot. We have a few other shots. Like, the film was going to be a super ambitious piece of media that was just completely fucking destroyed in favor of Peabody and Sherman 2014.
What was the movie that took over, like, it ended up getting Popeye animation canceled?
Oh, it was a Sony Pictures one.
What was it?
That Popeye film did come back.
The Emoji Movie.
Yes. The Popeye film did come back into production.
Okay.
I believe it actually released. I could be wrong about that.
No, there's no way it released. I would have heard about it.
I could have sworn it was like 2019. I will look into that in a moment. But yeah, no, Me and My Shadow was like a super interesting film.
Before we wrap all this up, back when we were talking about like other like certain like Japanese movies, I kind of just wanted to bring up this thing that I ended up like thinking about when I was watching a movie called Penguin Highway. Penguin Highway wasn't that great. I thought it was okay. It was like 6 out of 10. But I watched it with my mom, and my mom thought it was the most boring fucking thing in the entire universe. But I thought it was alright, you know. Granted, it is really long. But I've noticed that the difference in sort of like the way that stuff is written between like Western film and Japanese film, and this applies to live action and cartoons, is a lot of the time Japanese film tends to be written in sort of a way where stuff happening is almost more like emergent. Like, things sort of go in these weird, odd twists and turns. And a lot of, like, value or, like, I guess, attention is given to just the way that characters will feel in individual moments. Like, that will make the viewer sort of, like, feel something, or maybe they'll remember it when they leave the movie. Even if it's not really relevant to, like, other stuff that actually happens in the film. So, like, the way that Penguin Highway is structured is, like, you really have no idea where the movie is going, like, the whole time. Because it kind of just feels like it's following, like, the daily life of, like, this kid who gets involved in, like, some weird, like, science fiction anomaly thing. But, like, it doesn't really feel like it's following this, like, logical, like, really tightly constructed and well-written, like, 3-4 act structure or whatever. Whereas I felt the opposite when I watched James Cameron's Titanic. And I liked the Titanic a lot. I really did. But I almost was, like, disgusted with, like, the way that everything in the movie felt like, so, like, fake. Like, because they get this impression from a lot of Western media. Everything sort of, like, circles in on itself in the way that it's written, in, like, a way that's just so flawlessly constructed to the point where, like, I don't really care about any of the characters because they don't feel like humans as much as, like,
props.
Like, like, pieces in, like, a larger, like, Rube Goldberg machine.
Every part of, like, Western media feels like a plot device.
Like,
it all, That's one of the things that I don't like. Like, it's, like, part of this, like, thing, like, people will tell you, like, nothing in your thing should serve no purpose. But, like, that's, like, dumb. That's really dumb.
I really feel like
well,
the way that I
hold on. As someone who very oddly somehow has, like, a very weird understanding of how things are written.
Yeah.
The idea that everything needs to serve a purpose is, it's not that that is a flaw, that is often taken too literally. Yeah. Where in a film, every single thing needs to come full circle, it needs to like all tie in together at the very end, when at the end of the day, details that viewers can latch onto and think about later, or readers, or what other kind of experiencers you're giving, you know? Yeah. Details that thematically tie into your work, that make it, you know, more engaging, more entertaining, more whatever, that also tie into the themes of the movie. They aren't just placed there for no reason. They tie into the themes of whatever it is you're doing. That's still a very important piece, and I feel like that's what a lot of Western things miss a lot of the time. Is that like they will be missing something along the lines of what's a good example of like this in Japanese media? Like they're missing something along the lines of like
10 minutes of unedited eating.
I don't know. They're missing like whatever that like integral piece is.
I would say that a lot of Penguin Highway is
like that. They're missing their Penguin Highway.
Well, what I would say is like it's a lot of superfluous elements which don't really mean very much to a viewer. You could say that like instead of every part of a film should serve a purpose, rather every part of a film should mean something. Not in terms of like its utility to the universe itself, but rather like the viewer will get something.
Yes.
Like, stop.
I've had her listen like, until she got tired of it.
A great... The dogs are all getting upset again. A great example of this is actually a movie I referenced earlier, Cats Don't Dance. Yeah. The viewer will get something out of the weird, bizarre, insane, religious stuff towards the end of the movie, you know? They will get something out of the whole film studio being flooded, all the animals, or being flooded by an angel, and all the animals getting aboard the ark to survive it, you know? Like, in the universe of the movie, that doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense. And, you know, it's certainly not, like, it's set up beforehand, but it's certainly not, like this immaculate piece of storytelling that you see in a lot of Western live-action media. In my opinion, it just makes the movie very, like, a lot stronger, you know?
But I was gonna say, I think you kind of, like, it's kind of, when I started thinking about, like, this difference between, like, what Japanese and Western pieces of media seem to consider, like, important when it comes to, like, writing, everything in, like, Japanese media is kind of, like, about, like, personal meaning, like, whether it's, like, relevant to the viewer watching, if something will make them actually like feel something, and what's meaningful to like I guess Japanese audiences, from what I can infer how a lot of the movies are made, is kind of just like emotions about like things that I don't know. Let's talk about like Western films. I think what a lot of Western audiences think is very important is their utility in a larger picture. Yes. Where, like, I would say that, like, the Western, like, or specifically the American normie kind of considers themselves important, like, as being part of, like, the larger picture of, like, some sort of, like, global story with, like, there's a progression of elements and they serve some sort of piece therein. And so, in American movies, you see films where all of the characters are not so much like
I can't.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry.
Here's how you stop them: is you fucking.
Anyways,
I mean, we're gonna end this in like a minute anyway.
Yeah.
But all I mean to say is, fucking Americans only feel.
Americans are utilitarian.
Americans only feel like they mean something as a piece in a larger machine, but Japanese people enjoy the small things in life, and that's why you see a lot of like anime, and not just anime, but like live action films from like Japan and I guess other Asian countries too, that are these more domestic stories of like a town, rather than like.
A big city.
A lot of American films kind of like when they think like, you know, make something like bigger. It's
Yeah.
more like the whole world is about to end and the hero needs to be the piece that stops it, rather than like something is like intensely meaningful to this one guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Makoto Shinkai movies are a great example of this.
Yeah.
Like Your Name, you know?
Yeah.
Technically speaking, within the world of Your Name, everything is fine.
Yeah.
Everyone's okay.
Just like one town.
One town got wiped off the map in like a bizarre natural disaster.
Yeah.
And it was sad, yeah. It was it's part of a larger, like, more sad narrative, but
But in the end, the world is better off for it.
in the end, the world didn't need them. No. In the end, like, that town was significant to this guy who didn't even know about it until, like, the start of the movie. And, like, you get to see him grow to, like, care for this town and, like, the people in it, and specifically the girl he's body swapping with. And, like, he grows to really care about all this stuff that's happening. And meanwhile, like, an American take on this thing would be, like a fucking mystery about how a city gets destroyed or something. I don't fucking know. It'd be another Superman movie. Like, I don't know. Western media is weird. Tackling it is not exactly my favorite thing in the world.
I simultaneously love and hate James Cameron because I feel like James Cameron is just a strange person. Like, I don't know, a lot of people might think of James Cameron as being just like
the guy,
big movie director.
Yeah.
You know? But like, if you actually pay attention to him, he's not like a J.J. Abrams. He's not like these other big movie directors. He is fucking like weird with the way that he approaches movies, where movies to him are almost like some kind of like research project. Where like they can be formulated to be like these perfect things. Not only in the structure of the movie themselves, which is what I hate about James Cameron, is that none of his characters are like people who feel things. They're cogs in this like movie machine. But the way that he approaches creating the movie machine is like when he was going to make a Titanic movie, he did more research on the Titanic than any other historian has ever done. If you look at like a history thing in a museum about the Titanic, I guarantee you James Cameron's research that he did for the Titanic had some part in creating that exhibit and the information that's in it. Like, he got in the sub personally and went down to see the wreckage, you know, himself. They dug through it. They did lots of research. Lots of, like, delving into, like, you know, fucking papers and newspaper articles and, like, you know, talking to people and, you know, going around and finding the original, like, creators of the ship itself and all this fucking other shit, scouting locations. It was just, like the Titanic that you see in the movie itself is the most faithful, detailed, meticulously crafted recreation of the Titanic which has ever been made.
And I can appreciate that about him too.
He has created entire new special effects technologies literally just to make Avatar. And now he's doing it over the course of multiple films to make Avatar 2, where like he doesn't need to do this to make a good movie. He doesn't need to do this to make a successful movie. He's doing this because he really genuinely cares about making these new technologies, where he's like, if I want to make the Avatar 2 that I imagined, the perfect Avatar 2, I need to create like 5 other movies just so I can research development on these different special effects technologies. I talked about, he was the producer on Battle Angel Alita, and that entire movie literally only exists to test the special effects technology that they use to make the main character, who I will say again is 100% computer generated. You know?
No, like, I think Avatar is actually a perfect example of what we're talking about with James Cameron, where the world of Avatar is super detailed. Everything, like, the special effects are all fucking incredible. Everything about it is just so fucking, like, visually, everything you see on the surface, you know, it's all there. And then you watch the movie, and it's Pocahontas again.
Yeah.
Because Pocahontas
But
is
it's the perfect Pocahontas.
Yeah, it's even better than regular Pocahontas, which is not a high bar.
It is the scientifically, technically perfect Pocahontas.
Yeah. Which, again, not a high bar. The original Pocahontas is not a good movie. I should stress that. Anyways, I think that's
we should finish this up.
It has been 3 hours.
We got a comment. We'll just respond to the comment real quick. It's been 3 hours.
Oh my god.
Okay, speed comment.
Speed running comment. Except
speed run the comment.
Your internet's not fast enough for me to switch.
I mean, you posted 2 episodes by this point, right?
We'll read and respond to the first sentence of his comment.
Yeah, all right. We got 2 comments.
Yes.
All right. Robert Anderson, our premier fan, has said, "I would not describe myself as an anime fan in the general sense because didn't we already talk about this? Yeah, we did.
Did we?
Didn't we? Wasn't this where? No. Yeah, this is where he talks about Cap Revolution Bottle Man.
Oh.
All right.
Oh yes, we have.
That was cool though.
Yes.
And then he says on the E3, he went back and he rewatched the E3 episode just to link a timestamp and say we're not gonna top this.
Which timestamp is that?
58:51. Oh, that's when we show the pitch a meme clip.
Yeah. No, Robert will do that, particularly when I am going through content droughts. Yeah. Is he will go back and he'll rewatch some of my old stuff, which I do very much so appreciate. I like that my content is worth revisiting, and I like that apparently our podcast is worth revisiting.
Yeah. I will say, I think I already said this in the comment response, but the whole E3 episode, we're not topping that.
No, that is the best episode of the podcast ever. It is literally just us whining. In the YMS review for Cyberbully, when it's like, yeah. That is the whole episode, and then the edits are all
There's
this
just
perfect,
stupid funny edits.
Yeah, all these edits are perfect, comedy gold. Anyways, so
that's it.
Oh, and of course, no voicemails, I'm assuming? No?
No.
No. All right. Well, this has been a chaotic mess.
Yeah.
This is the messiest episode yet.
I'll listen to this while I'm drawing.
I apologize very much for the animals. They are mine.
It's okay. We couldn't do anything about them.
You don't gotta be embarrassed about it.
I don't... I'm not embarrassed. They've just caused a lot of issues.
They are very needy. The very small one here is crying because we won't pet her. But we can't pet her because she's so small, we have to bend over for the whole episode. Oh yeah, and then there's the cat that's been meowing in the background the whole time. Don't think the cats are without sin.
The cats are absolutely near without sin when compared with the dogs, alright?
They were the ones vocalizing. The dogs were just walking really obnoxiously. Oh yeah, that one was crying, literally.
No, that one has been making sound throughout the whole episode.
Yeah.
With our guest star.
Cut out all of the dog talk.
No.
Okay.
No, fuck your dogs. The world needs to know. Fuck all dogs. I won't have any of them.
No, dogs are cute.
Except for fictional ones. Those ones are okay.
No.
Dogs and cats are good when they're not. When I don't have to take care of them.
Dogs and cats are good when we're not trying to record podcasts around them.
No, cats are good unless they're the really mean ones that won't let me pick them up without scratching me.
By the way, I tried locking these dogs in a room that this podcast wasn't being recorded in, and then they just kind of barked a lot.
Constantly.
And I know from experience that they won't stop.
This is a message to all viewers of the podcast. You are not allowed to have dogs unless you can train them. Don't do it. Don't have a dog unless you train the dog. Please.
This is funny because our only commenter's profile picture is his dog. All right, we done?
Yeah.
Are we done? Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
That was a fucking mess.
This was the worst episode.
This is the most disastrous podcast I have been on in my life.